Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do a roll call. We got stuff to do.
All right. Okay, Vice President Hetherington.
Here.
Director Morrison.
Here.
All right. President Bett.
Here.
Director Stevens.
Here.
Director Wallace.
Yep, here.
And
Fantastic. Let's
if I
Go
can
ahead,
make
Brent.
the announcement, pursuant to Executive Order N-29-20, this meeting will be held exclusively via live web streaming. And my thinking is, if you're listening to me, then you're already streaming. Text messages for public comment can be made to the following number and will be read aloud during public comment. Area 530-205-8603, and email to david.vanquest@Truckee Tahoe Airport.com. Live public comment can be made, and be ready to write this down, us02web.zoom.us/j/8968986784. The meeting ID number is 896-8986-7834. Thanks.
I also have an announcement. If you'd like to speak and you're somebody other than a board member or staff, please use the raise hand feature. I'll go through my list and I'll call your name or the way you're identified by your phone number or your computer, and then you'll be unmuted and you can go ahead and speak. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a couple special orders of business, and we're going to start with the Mountain Housing Council urgent request that has to be done by 5 o'clock. So Brent, how are we going to do that?
There's a matter that came before came to the knowledge of the district after the agenda was posted, and it needs, as President Odette mentioned, has to be addressed prior to 5 o'clock today. If there is a 2/3 majority, which would be 4 of the board members, it can be added to the agenda, and the matter to be added is a request by the Mountain Housing Council.
I would approve that addition to the agenda. That's Rick.
I would second that. That's Jim.
And Mary.
And
Yep, I'm in favor.
I am as well.
is there any public comment on that?
David?
There is no public comment on that special order.
Okay.
Rick, did you want to present that, or do you want me to talk a little bit about it?
Well, this was sent to me and to Kevin, and Kevin sent it to everybody. It's basically they want to write a letter to the to support Assembly Bill 1436, which, according to the email from the Mountain Housing Council, Stacy Caldwell, it elevates both tenants and landlords in this action as both being worthy of support. It's a very important element for economic stability in our community. Number two, it recognizes that if we do not take action today, we will have a growing population of homeless people that exacerbate the already serious health crisis in a global pandemic. That's the coverage, and there, if you click the letter, you can actually see the letter. And we are one of the Mountain Housing Council people, and they want us to endorse them or say it's okay for them to send a letter and put our name on it.
This is Lisa. I support us approving being a signatory on the letter.
As do I.
Do we need a motion and a second, or just all of us saying yes?
I think a motion would be appropriate, and I'm not sure, did we get at least 4 votes approving it being added to the agenda?
You got 5.
Got a 5.
That's more than enough. So now that there should be a motion and a second to approve that letter going out in the next 20 minutes.
I move that the airport district approve the letter and as needed be a signatory on the letter, and that approval is conveyed before 5 o'clock this evening.
I'll second that.
Okay, Vice President Hetherington,
Yes.
Director Morrison,
Yes.
President Odette,
Yes.
Director Stevens,
Yes.
Wallace.
Any public comment?
We have some public comment within the Zoom meeting under general public comment that was just identified in chat. Let me know when you'd like to handle that.
So not specific to this?
Not specific.
Okay, Kevin, I will send the email to Stacy approving.
Let her know that we approve that. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have another special order of business to add. And that is that we officially got notice that Jim is resigning his position. So we need to talk about that. And Brent, I want to know what our options are. You're mute.
How soon is that being effective?
Jim?
It's kind of up to you guys, but at the end of the meeting or sometime in the near future. I just thought I should bring it up while we were all together and see if there was something to talk about, or whether it's something you want to add into next month's agenda, or how you handle it.
Basically, you have pretty much 2 years left on your term.
Correct.
So I don't have the statute memorized, but basically the airport district will notify Placer County of the availability, and then the board has a certain amount of time. I want to say maybe 120 days, but don't hold me to that. To appoint a replacement to fill out the term, and if the board does not make a replacement, select a replacement within the time period, then the Placer County Board of Supervisors would go ahead and do it. That's
Brent, I hate to legalize you, but your supposed successor, Josh Nelson, told me in an email, we have 60 days. If we don't do it in 60 days, it goes to Placer.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what the time period was, because he probably had the advantage of looking it up before he answered.
Yes, he did. We surprised you, Brent.
Yeah, which is okay. I was pretty close, except for doubling the time.
Okay. So what do we want to do about this? Fellow board members, shall we
Well, first,
agendize it?
yeah, you'd have to agendize it for the next meeting.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah, Brent, should I make a motion?
No, I think just direction to staff is fine.
And does the 60 days start at the end of this meeting, or will he stay through the end of till the next meeting? You know, when does the 60-day clock start?
Ticking, yeah.
When his resignation becomes effective, normally it's given in writing to the clerk of the board, and when and Jim, you can specify a date. If you don't, it would be effective when received by the clerk. That's what starts the 60 days running.
Jim, is it possible for you to make it effective at the next board meeting? Is that a possibility for you?
I'll send a letter to, who's the clerk of the board? Teresa?
Lauren.
Lauren. Okay. I'll send a letter to Lauren, and I'll put a date on it.
Perfect. Hate to lose you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll miss you guys. I'll still be around.
Good.
Okay. All right. So staff has direction, so we can move on. Correct? I don't think we have any other modifications to the agenda, so we have some public comment.
But first,
I have one other special order of business.
Oh, what's that?
Well, it's tied to the policy instruction 119, where there's more candidates for the board than there are openings. Said that the staff shall promptly place on the homepage, a website, a link to the Secretary of State's website. And I haven't seen that, or maybe I'm not.
So we actually were looking at that 3 or 4 days ago. Been working with Josh to try and make sure we get the right link on there. But if it's not up already, it should be up here by tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Saw that earlier. We realized that there were more candidates and we needed to get that posted. And I had 2 other special orders. Every month I do just a quick COVID update, and not much has changed since last month, so I won't really get into too many extra details. But the airport's still functioning at what I hope to be a very high level. Our staff is working very hard, and I want to thank our employees for their continual efforts to provide services to the public and our users, and keep the facility open and operational. Just about every service that we can provide is we continue to provide, and continuing with our building sanitation programs, and then also our contingency planning should we have any COVID infections that are reported. We haven't had any, so we're happy about that. And that's kind of all I have for an update there, unless there's any questions on that. Seeing none, the second item I had was just I wanted to just congratulate Hardy Bullock for the last 3 or 4 years, or 2 years, 3 years. He's been working on his airport accreditation, and it's a big deal in our industry to achieve your accredited airport executive. And he on the 14th of August, he was successful in finishing the final phase of that, and is now an accredited airport executive. I wanted to congratulate him. He's one of 2 that work for the airport, and congratulations, Hardy. It was a lot of work, and he got it done. So good job.
Nice work. All right. Any other special orders of business? All righty. Then I think we go to public comment, and I believe Ken Aronson is first up.
Yes, this is Ken Aronson. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Ken Aronson, and I'm running for a seat on the Truckee Tahoe Airport Board. I'm a 30-year resident of Truckee, and I've come down to the airport almost every day to appreciate the benefits airplanes and airports do for our modern society. Without aviation, we wouldn't have air ambulances, care flight, or the airborne firefighting operations. Sure glad we had them this week, bad fires. I enjoy watching the airplanes come and go. It's almost like watching a ballet. I enjoy watching the families that come down, young and old, aviation enthusiasts and not. I really enjoy watching it with the families they bring. I really enjoy the incredible staff at the airport, and I'm advocating an airport for all. I have volunteered with many groups at the airport for 10 years plus. I was on command staff with the Civil Air Patrol, 6 years as the commander, 10 years with the Experimental Aircraft Association, flying Young Eagle flights for the past 6. 10 years I've been called Commander Ken, running the Mission to Mars Space Camp at the airport, a STEM-based program I developed with my wife Roland actually, to inspire our young aviation and non-aviation youth to become interested in advanced science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEAM sometimes it's called. We add the art with it. Working on the Mission to Mars Space Camp, again, for 10 years, has shown me that our community wants and needs more STEM-based activities at the airport. I would like to see that community hangar built where we could maybe one day in the near future have a STEM Day Saturday or Space Camp Saturday. Come on down to the airport on a snowy Saturday morning, have some hot chocolate with us, and work on some STEM or STEAM-based activities. We can make rockets, we can watch some real space activities, maybe design a futuristic travel plans for our area without using automobiles. I'm advocating an airport for all, aviation and non. I'm a pilot with over 40 years experience. I know what is required for safe and quiet flying and have some ideas on airport improvements for the noise and annoyance issues. Finally, I fly with the Young Eagles Program's Experimental Aircraft Association every month when we could with my home-built airplane. I especially enjoy sharing my experience building this airplane with the youth and hope to show them that they too can build something like that and maybe their dreams could have a brighter future. In closing, I refer to the airport mission statement. The Truckee Airport is a community airport that provides high-quality aviation facilities and services to meet the local needs and strives for a low impact on our neighbors while enhancing the benefit to the community at large. I absolutely believe in this statement and look forward to beginning working with the board in December. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll
Lee Golden is up next, yes?
Hi, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Hi, my name's Lee Golden. I'm a 22-year Truckee resident, and I am announcing my candidacy for a seat on the Truckee Tahoe Airport Board. I care deeply for the airport and the community that surrounds it. The board needs pilots seated. I have flown in and out of Truckee since the late 1970s in aircraft ranging from single and multi-engine piston and multi-engine turbine-powered aircraft. I have over 10,000 hours of total time and rated to fly anything basically between a Piper Cub and a Boeing 767. I have been a licensed A&P aircraft mechanic since 1975 and hold an IAA inspection authorization. At Air Ambulance International in Hayward, California, I worked there for 10 years. I was check airman on a Learjet 24 and 25, MU-2B 60, 40, and 35 turboprop airplanes. These aircraft were exclusively used for aeromedical use. I was also chief pilot at Air Ambulance International, director of maintenance at Air Ambulance International. In addition, I was crew chief on the Steve Fawcett Supersonic Land Speed Car project that was down in Reno, Nevada. I also had a very close working relationship with FAA FSDO operations in Oakland and Reno. With this background, I will bring real aeronautical knowledge to the table to make good, safe, and fiscally responsible decisions on aircraft operations, flight path design, and application. At Truckee, I support the proposals for Hangar 2 and 3 at Truckee. The partnerships with the community will be vast and far-reaching. Upgrading runway 2002 will give aircraft operators good, safe options for landing and takeoff at Truckee. We must continue to improve the airport and the programs in the surrounding community. My years on the ACAT and an active STEM member have been invaluable in learning the process. I look forward to working with the Truckee Tahoe Airport Board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lee. Any other public comment?
We have up next will be Kevin Westo, I believe is how it's pronounced. Kevin.
It's Wesley. Can you hear me?
Wesley, thank you.
Yes.
I feel like a little bit of a newbie. We're just starting our 6th year as Truckee residents. The last couple of years, we've had more and more problems with the tow planes and the gliders flying either directly over our house at low altitude or high altitude. And I wanted to start a conversation today about some long-term and permanent solutions that would allow the gliders to continue, but would eliminate the conflict with the surrounding neighborhood. I've done a lot of research on the FAA. One thing I know you voted on a couple of months ago so that we could track their actual flights was not helping them with funding for transponders. As a business person, I think they should provide their own transponder, but I also understand that's not a legal requirement for the FAA. So I'd encourage the board to reconsider that position so we could get real data to help study the problem and come up with solutions. My real target is when their lease expires, we're going to get community groups to encourage the airport board of directors not to renew a lease for any glider company that does not agree to use a tow winch system which is one, safer, two, eliminates the tow plane cost, and three, eliminates the conflict with the neighborhoods. They are in use in small regional airports already in California, and they do have a good safety record. So there's a lot that we don't know about this, and we want to become part of the solution and not part of the problem. We did send a letter to you, which I think you read. We'll continue trying to learn and participate, but we ask for your support long-term in eliminating the tow planes. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw another hand raised up there, right, Hardy?
Yeah, Robert Bousquet.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, is it possible for me to share screen in the future during this? Okay, so,
sure.
all right, my name's Robert Bousquet, and I'm the treasurer of the Tahoe Flying Club, and I was also a founding member. Over the past 7 years, we've partnered with the airport to help reduce noise and also to provide a safer pilot community by encouraging training and making sure that everybody knows about the noise abatement procedures, and pilots are encouraged to get advanced ratings such as IFR and commercial ratings to increase safety. A little bit of background, the airport recently purchased the Diesel 172, which it made available for renters and students. And it also purchased this flight simulator, both of which were significant investments in the reduction of noise in our community with this quieter airplane, and also a better option for pilots to do training without having to fly. A situation has come to my attention, which I'd like to make the board aware about. The recent changes in policy for non-residents has caused some disincentives for some of our members who are local pilots and involved in the local area. In addition, they're hangar tenants because we have an aircraft that is hangared here on the field. And they also donate their time to the airport in terms of the air show, volunteering with Santa Fly-In, volunteering with EAA, and a number of other things that contribute to the airport and the community. Recently, a rate change was adopted that increases the rate for the flights on 01 Golf from $150 an hour to $200 an hour for non-residents, and it also increased the cost of the flight simulator from $0 an hour to $90 an hour for pilots who don't live within the boundaries of the district. The contributions of our members greatly exceed on an annual basis the contributions from an average homeowner in this area, which amount to approximately $100 on average. I would accept the current figure if you have it, of property tax value. We also pay for hangar taxes, and we pay for property taxes for the aircraft in Nevada County here at the airport. One of the things that the increased rate does is it decreases safety because it creates a disincentive for people to fly the quieter aircraft. If people are not currently flying the quieter aircraft, then they're flying this aircraft, which is at the lower rate, $150 an hour, and it creates more noise, as was shown in the noise studies that were done by the airport prior to the purchase of the other aircraft. Secondly, the $90 an hour is a extreme cost to use the simulator, and encourages people to instead opt for overflying around the airport in order to get their training and get the full benefit of flight, rather than use a simulator which is only good for certain things and is more safe to actually use a simulator, but at that cost, the economics don't make sense, and people will choose to fly. Secondly, I know that there was this is the scheduling program for the aircraft involved, and you can see that there is a lot of schedule available on both aircraft and the simulator room over the next 7 days, which is representative of what we've seen lately. And so I would encourage the airport to work with the Tahoe Flying Club to come up with a solution that helps our members continue to reduce noise and increase the access to safe aviation in our community, and allows us to continue to contribute the things that we're doing to the Truckee area.
Teresa, I'm interested if the other board members are, and Robert's item being agendized for one of the next board meetings, if that's possible.
I agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah, we can put that on the agenda.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Yeah. There's one from Ashley White.
Hi guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, mine may be a slightly redundant to Robert's, but I will start. I'm Ashley White, a pre-solo female student pilot based in Incline Village since 2012, and I've returned full-time since the pandemic. I'm an active member of the Tahoe Flying Club, Southwest section of the 99s, and a member of the Oakland Flying Club. Females, as you know, currently make up only 12% of student pilot certificates across the US. The love of aviation falls second to the cost of training for a private pilot certificate. Truckee Simulator offers a unique opportunity to build flight comprehension before turning an engine over on the flight line. I'm here today to ask that the airport considers reducing or omitting the simulator rental fee for Tahoe Flying Club members. TFC pays property taxes to this county for both the hangar and the TFC owned airplane, and we are seeking quieter options like the simulator. Please consider omitting the sim rental fee to allow us to continue to grow in our studies in a safe and effective manner that aligns with the airport's values, including those regarding noise abatement. The Truckee Airport community is strong, including TFC's members. We often donate our time and do a lot of different things within the airport, including flights with Young Eagles, and we have the same goals as the airport. Thanks for listening and for all the staff and board work that you guys do, and especially to the airport during all these fires. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I don't
David?
see any.
I've got a couple that came in via email. I can get you those now. This first one came from Linda Rusan. Linda says, to the airport board, I appreciate that the board is open to discussing and answering community questions. These two questions and comments are regarding storage and camping. Question 1, while at the Tahoe Food Hub, I happened to notice this hangar door open, along with the Mike series, Mike 9 or Mike 11, and thought about my own current ongoing garage decluttering. Having recently priced storage in Truckee at the airport self-storage, Truckee mini storage, and town and country storage, the rates for their largest 10 by 30 foot units available ranged from $1.07 to $1.38 per square foot, compared to the new proposed price of T hangars at about 40 cents per square foot, executive at 47 cents per square foot, and super executive at 68 cents per square foot. The hangar rental space is an excellent deal. In seeing this space, I wondered what the requirements were for renting a hangar, as I have been hearing that there is a long waiting list for hangars and there's discussion of building more. The need to add more hangars has a big economic and environmental footprint. I believe the cost storing personal airplanes should be commensurate to the actual cost of the hangars and be subsidized by the taxpayers. In addition, is there a stated purpose for use of the hangars? Does the airport compete with private storage? Are leases renewed annually and check to see if they are being used per the lease requirements? Do renters have to pay for private insurance as other commercial storage units discuss in their lease? Have other user options been considered as a limitation on rental terms to give other users an opportunity to rent a space? Question 2. While walking the Martis Dam Road, I observed this RV parked south of the Soar Truckee campground. This made me curious to learn about the requirements and the rules to be able to use public land for private camping. Thank you for the opportunity to inquire. Linda.
Is any of that on our agenda, Kevin?
I don't think so, but no. We don't really have any place on this agenda we can talk about those things. And for those that may not be familiar with our public meeting process, we would love to be able to answer all these questions right now, but how the Brown Act works is we need to agendize these so that people we're happy to put on an agenda.
Agenda item approved.
You don't have to wait for a full meeting.
Okay, man, see it.
You can call us.
Did you know if Christian push those two?
Yeah, can someone?
Who is that?
That's Robert Biscuit.
Can
Robert?
we mute him?
Robert?
There you go.
There you go. Thanks. You can also just call us, and we'd love to sit down. We really enjoy meeting with constituents, airport district residents, and we can go through and answer all these questions, or we can put it on a future agenda.
Thank
I'd
you,
say
Kevin.
You should reach out to her, Kevin.
Yeah, some of these comments that I've received have basically just been questions to the airport, which haven't been sure how to either just answer them or just read it as they requested. So we can circle up with Linda.
Okay.
And
yeah, I think I just want to say if the comments came in as public comments for the board meeting, we need to acknowledge them. And what we said at the beginning of this meeting is that we would read them. So we need to read them. We could change that for future meetings. Brent and Josh can help us figure that out. But if they came in for the board meeting, I think we need to honor what we said we would do.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll defer to Josh on that, but my thinking is if you get the public comments, basically they have to be read because other people may want to know what other community members' concerns and questions are.
Okay.
The next comment that came by email comes from Bruce Uzent. Bruce says, I would like to call attention to the increase in noise and disruption from jet traffic. This is in contrast to propeller-driven planes that seem to obey flight patterns and airport time of day usage. The jets seem to be most annoying in early morning and late evening when they are most disruptive. Jets often do not adhere to prescribed takeoff and landing patterns and make themselves more obtrusive. You can hear the jets all over Truckee, not just in the Sierra Meadows and southwest of the airport. Can you educate and inform your jet pilots like you did with general aviation? Bruce. And I got one via text just now from Matt Miller. Matt says, why do you have to be a pilot to be a board member? That got.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah, if I could just add, Teresa, kind of as I was saying before, is we want everyone that sends something in, we want to hear your comment during the meeting. But I would encourage anyone that if you want to call us and talk to us during the month before the meeting, we're happy to answer these questions. If folks would like these things specifically put on, and one person did request it that it specifically be put on, we can do that. Otherwise, we'd love to just have some dialogue and conversation with folks on these questions. And for those of you that gave us your contact info, we'll reach out to you and call you and talk through these your questions.
Can I say that you don't have to be a pilot to run for the board? Is that allowable, Brent?
No.
Okay, moving on.
I'm the only pilot on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of this month, we're talking about a CPI increase on hangars, but it might be something next month or the month after. It's getting very crowded, but to somehow be answering some of those questions and looking at that, I would request on the agenda coming up.
I'll jump in. When you get to the consent calendar, I being aware that Jim is running a hangar, I was checking with FVPC regulations. Bottom line is he does not have to recuse himself. First, he does not have a real property interest because the hangar rent, the hangar term is month to month. looking at the personal financial effect, the proposed increase would not affect him more than $500 per year. And there's also a regulation, 18703, that says that a general fee or charge such as parking rates or any general fee that applies to the jurisdiction is also exempt. So Jim, you can chime in on the consent agenda.
Okay, let's roll right into the consent agenda. That's next. Does anyone want to pull anything?
I would like to pull the minutes of the July 29th meeting. I have some questions on the service bill, and on the monthly ops and comment report, I have that. But I'm okay to approve the annual hangar CPI and the June 24th minutes.
What about, so you want to pull 3 items, Mary?
Yes, 2, 3, and
Two.
5.
Well,
2,
I
3,
move
and
we
5.
approve 1 and
4.
4.
Second.
Okay.
Public comment.
Public comment on the consent agenda?
No public comment on the consent agenda.
Okay, roll call.
Yes.
Vice President Hetherington,
Yes.
Director Morrison,
Yes.
President Odette,
Yes.
Director Stevens,
Yes.
Director Wallace.
Yes. And Teresa, I have a request. If Brent will let us do it, that we consider the pulled consent items after agenda item 6, since we have so many people here for agenda item 6.
That works for me.
No
Agreed.
problem.
Good. Okay, let's
Agreed.
jump over to to Truckee Springs Land Acquisition Report.
Yeah, let me just give a introduction to this, and if Lauren, if you want to call up the map of the with the airport land use compatibility plan that has the put that up on the screen, that might be good. But what we're doing tonight, this is just a discussion in preparation to take action at a future meeting regarding land trust for the airport district to consider participation in the Truckee Springs property. It's just that area just in the downtown area that the land trust and various other partners are seeking to purchase. This property is in the airport land use compatibility zone D, which is our primary traffic pattern zone. There's a small corner of it you can see there, and it's a kind of a small map, but hopefully everyone can see it there. There is a small portion that's in land use zone E, but the vast majority of it is in our primary traffic pattern zone. And so the land trust has a pretty extensive presentation that you can look through, some materials that they've provided. Then there's also included, their funding partners and how much funding they're looking for. And so the airport right now we received 3 requests to consider property acquisitions. This one, there's the Tahoe Maritime property that we'll talk about a little bit later on the meeting, as well as the neighbors over in the Martis Creek Estates area will be on the next agenda to talk about a request they have. So you have those 3 out there. So we wanted you to get a presentation from each of those groups, and then you can talk about funding this at a later meeting. But with that, I'll turn it over to the land trust if they have anything they'd like to add. You could maybe take
Could we stop the screen share?
Yeah, take the screen share down. It'd be great. There you go.
Sure, I'll jump in.
Perfect. Yeah.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Perry Norris, the Executive Director of the Land Trust, and thank you for your time today, and thank you very much for your consideration. The Land Trust and the airport has I think, a very highly mutual benefiting partnership that goes back to 2007 with Wattle Ranch, and together in partnership, I think we've accomplished great conservation and great things for our community. Truckee Springs is, I believe, another great project that we're bringing before the board for consideration this afternoon. Some people even tell me it's probably the land trust in terms of its direct impact into Truckee and quality of life, our best and our most important project. So we're really excited. It's been a long project in the process, going back probably 10 years since we began talking to the owner of the property. Tony Lashbrook, former town manager, and Jim Porter have volunteered to do the land trust presentation. And I'd like to turn it over to Tony, who probably is the most qualified person in Truckee to speak about the benefits of this project. So thanks, and Tony, you're on.
Thank you, Perry. We have a slide deck, hopefully, that comes up, and some of it you just saw, but we'll talk through this fairly quickly. Again, Tony Lashbrook, a longtime Truckee resident, in this case, a volunteer working on the Truckee Springs Ad Hoc Committee, and really honored to be speaking to the airport board tonight. So we're calling this Truckee Springs opportunity the wild side of downtown. Maybe this picture shows why, for obvious reasons. Go ahead, Grayson, move on. As Perry mentioned, there is a history, a legacy of successful collaboration between the Land Trust and the Airport District. 3 significant acquisitions are Ponderosa Golf Course, Waddell Ranch, and Elizabethtown Meadow. In addition to just ownership, there's also successful forest stewardship and management for public access and recreation, not to mention watershed improvement, et cetera. So, this is just another opportunity to build on this long-term collaboration. Go ahead, Grayson. You saw this. This is the comprehensive land use map, and this is most of this property is in a primary overflight area, so it is of interest to the airport in terms of that issue. Go ahead, Grayson. I'm going to talk a little bit about this slide. This is the maybe the key slide in the deck, just in terms of information. Truckee Springs is outlined in red. There's about 1/3 of a mile of Truckee River frontage within the Truckee Springs property. As you notice, directly to the west is a property outlined in green that's owned by the state of California Department of Fish and Wildlife. There's about 2/3 of a mile of river access within that property that's currently, you can't get to it. So what happens with Truckee Springs is that it opens up really a mile of river frontage that is not currently accessible to the public. In addition, what happens with the Truckee Springs acquisition is it really solidifies public ownership on the south side of the Truckee River from where the Truckee River enters the town of Truckee to the Glenshire Bridge. Now there's a small inholding directly about 3 blocks directly east of Truckee Springs, which is a historic downtown neighborhoods of South River Street and Southeast River Street. But other than that, with this acquisition, we would have public ownership throughout the south side of the river. We've called this property the Golden Spike of trail connections, not just for Truckee, but the entire region. I'll talk just a little bit about that. This is the missing link for the Legacy Trail, which connects Glenshire to Donner Lake. It's a town of Truckee, primarily a town of Truckee project with partners. That the Truckee Legacy Trail is part of the Tahoe Pyramid Trail, and also connects to the west and south with the planned Placer County Truckee River Trail from Squaw to the Legacy Trail. And also now the Legacy Trail connects to the east and south to the airport and Rayleigh's and Placer County and parts to the southeast via the newly constructed trail that was part of phase 1 of the Yorga Ranch specific plan. So Ultimately, there's a planned resort triangle trail, and this would be the key part of that. In addition to those paved trails, this would also provide access to the Legacy Trail from the Trout Creek Trail, which provides access from Tahoe to downtown, and a series of dirt trails, the Sawtooth, Big Chief, 06 Road area to the south, which is a important recreational trail network, primarily on Forest Service land. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. You might have seen our sign on the site, or maybe a bumper sticker. This is our campaign, Coming Soon Nothing, except for open space, trails, and river access. So keep your eye out for that. Move on. Grayson. Project benefits, we've hit on some of those already. Access and recreation, I think a huge opportunity. Conservation, this property has significant development potential, either in terms of single family, multifamily, or resort development. It was once owned by the County of Nevada for a mobile home park. There's significant, so acquisition would not provide for those kinds of development on this wild side of the Truckee River. Obviously, opportunities for partnerships with organizations like the Truckee River Watershed Council for riverfront restoration, riparian restoration. This is not a pristine site. It has a legacy of industrial uses, large sawmills, etc., which is a part of its history. But it also has a history of recreational use. This is where the Ice Palace was located, connecting up to the Hilltop Winter Recreation Facility. So, and there is remaining on the property a pond that is a remnant of that recreational history. Okay, move on. We have a flyover that hopefully works and gives you a better, it's about a minute long, context of where this property is. Again, it's outlined in red. You can see the downtown directly to the north, and the Legacy Trail network is in yellow. There's the pond in the center of the screen, the existing South River Street neighborhood to the west. Those folks are strong supporters of this project or this acquisition. And then you can see the Truckee River headed upstream towards the Placer County. You can also see that California Fish and Wildlife property, and then Highway 89 is on the upper part of the screen, in the intersection with West River Street. So if that hasn't made you dizzy, we'll move on. One of the key elements of this opportunity will be a pedestrian bridge connecting the wild side, Truckee Springs, to downtown Truckee. The town, independent of this project, but related to it, is building or planning to build a park on the south side of West River Street, and this pedestrian bridge would connect to that and really tie the Legacy Trail to downtown and provide for an urban wild interface right in our downtown. A pretty unique opportunity. We're not going to dive too deep into this, but our total budget is $10 million. Of that, it's about a $6.5 million acquisition, and then the remainder goes towards the bridge, trail improvements, a trailhead, parking area, and a stewardship. So far, in hand, is $3 million of land trust funds, $3 million pledged from state agencies, about 1.2 of 2.5 million in private fundraising. The town of Truckee has so far pledged $500,000 with the opportunity maybe for another half. And other government entities, that's where the airport district comes in. We're looking for $500,000 to $1 million in total to round out the $10 million budget. Our escrow deadline is June of 2021, and so that is our timeline to secure all funding. Go ahead, Grayson. Just a little indicator of community support. 160 community members donated so far. We've received a Community Foundation grant, a Vail Epic Promise grant, our Truckee River Legacy Foundation grant. This is popular with real estate agents contributing closing gifts to this project, and there's strong vocal support in the community for this opportunity. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up and be prepared to answer any questions that you might have, and encourage a future agenda looking at allocating funding for this really incredible opportunity within our community.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for being involved and working on it.
My pleasure. It's really, I'm really excited about this particular opportunity for our region.
I'm really excited that you're involved and it's not just Porter. Does anyone else want to say before he gets his finger up in the air?
I have a question. Tony, you mentioned, or maybe Jim will answer this, Perry. You mentioned that the seller, until recently, has been interested in developing the property. And while I know that there's a historic approval from Nevada County for a mobile home park, what were some of the more recent options for development under the town of Truckee's jurisdiction?
Yeah, I mean, my involvement ended about 3 years ago, but certainly a series of residential lots fronting the river, kind of marching westward from the South River Street neighborhood, along with some multifamily or lodging development in a cluster. One of the constraints is a dead-end road problem, and so the development tended to be shoved towards the east side of the property to limit the road length. But that also led to a notion of building a road, through relatively undeveloped river frontage across to West River Street to try to provide for more development. So all of those things were proposed to the town at various times. None of them were ever approved, but it was an ongoing process.
Yeah, I was interested. I can understand that obviously nothing had made it all the way through the approval process to date, but one of the potential points of concern for the airport district could be in the land use plan that you showed at the beginning. So just trying to get a handle on what out in some point in the future could be the numbers of people visiting or living under one of the safety zones or the air flight zones.
The bottom line is the town's land use planning provided for residential or lodging development, both of which are sensitive noise receptors. So potential issues there.
Yeah, just to jump in, and Tony, correct me if I'm mistaken, but the current zoning would allow up to 40 single-family residences, and those could be of significant estate sizes. And then it goes up from there. You could do 80 condominiums, or you could do up to a 120-unit hotel room.
Yes, or some mix and match of those.
So it basically, the more density that comes with a proposed development, there's a corresponding increase in the number of units.
Yes.
Lisa,
Fingers up.
can I speak? This is Jim Porter. It's funny you should ask about, mention the trailer park. My very first lawsuit as a young lawyer just a few years ago, I actually sued on behalf of a neighbor. I sued the developer of this property, the owner of this property, who had approved a mobile home park. And I went down to Nevada City at the courtroom in my corduroy sport coat and stood next to the most amazing lawyer I'd ever met, who just chewed me up in court and spit me out. And when he got through with his presentation, I wanted to say, go ahead and build your project. I don't know what I was thinking here. But while I lost, they never got the property. And it's then later it was scheduled for development, for very intense development. And I've seen the plans, and I think that it could easily get approved for intense development. It's not a desirable piece of property for affordable housing because of the price. I guess maybe there are other restrictions. And I would just close by saying this is it's very rare that a community gets to later in its development have a jewel of downtown property. In Europe, you see it all the time, but in so many places in the States, you don't see downtown open space along the river allow boating and kayaking and fishing and everything else. So community support is beyond belief. I mean, I've been involved with several of the acquisitions, and some of them are popular for certain people. This particular project, this acquisition, everybody we talk to says, oh my God, yeah, how can I help? And so I'll close with that. Normally I would keep on going, but as I get paid by the word, but I'm not getting paid today, so I'll step down. But thank you for your entertaining our request.
This is Rick Stevens. I have a question. On the board package that we looked at on our website, it had a line item, other government agencies, 500,000 pending. In Tony's presentation, it said 500 to $1 million pending. What happened? We added another $500,000. And who are the other agencies you're talking about?
I'll jump in, Perry. You can fill in details. We're talking to all of them. We have met with the PUD staff. I think we plan to pursue the sanitary district and the sanitation agency and Rec and Park. Those are probably the key ones that may have an interest, and we think we can make a strong argument in favor of their financial support.
Well, hopefully that's music to Mary's ears, other special districts.
Well, see, I'm bringing out my, where's my, it's my Moonshine Inc. article from April 11th to May 8th of 2015, where the main sewer trunk line for all of the lake runs right through this.
Yes, it does.
So the trunk line, is that TTSA's trunk line, or is that everybody contributes towards that trunk line, like North Tahoe PUD and the Tahoe City PUD?
I believe it's TTSA's.
Okay, so TTSA gets about $3 million of property tax dollars. So to protect access to their trunk line, I think they would be very interested in supporting this. Between Tahoe City PUD, North Tahoe PUD, Squaw Valley PUD, and Alpine Springs County Water District, which I think is part of the sewer as well. There's about $19 million that they get in property taxes. It's not enterprise funds. Those are property tax dollars. So I'm just throwing it out there. This Moonshine Inc. article, I carry it around with me all the time and say, we got to start thinking of ourselves as a region. We got to think about what's good for us as a region and not be in our silos. So I'm supportive of the airport, but I also think there's other people who could be brought to play.
So I am also in favor of this. It's in the D zone. It does have a development plan on it, although hopefully that won't happen. My question is only, I would support the acquisition. The question is how much? In spite of the fact that when I went to walk the property with Perry Norris, he stood me up for 15 minutes and I had to dig him out of his office. He's not denying it.
He was hustling money for it.
I am scarlet red right now.
I doubt that.
But Perry, you may be scarlet red, and maybe the problem was the timing because you look like the guy in the Back to the Future.
I got a couple questions, and they're probably for Perry. Is the property's going to stay in the Truckee Donner Land Trust?
For the foreseeable future, yes, the land trust will own and manage the property.
And
the bridge will actually be owned and maintained by the town of Truckee, though.
And I guess my question is, I'm struggling of exactly how to word it, but hopefully you'll get the gist of it. I'm concerned that you have the ability to manage and improve and do as you wish what the community wants done on this property 5, 10, 15, 50 years from now. And as that desire changes, kind of to what Jim's talking about, the unique asset that this parcel will be in its adjacency to our town and our downtown, will we look back on 2020 and say, yeah, we did all the right things then, or are we restricting ourselves to some degree in how and what you can and can't do? And I don't want to go see apartment buildings built on this property in 50 years, and I appreciate that that's getting protected in perpetuity, but at the same time, it is a unique piece of property. It's been there for a really long time. It's beautiful to look at as we drive by it, but will we find a bigger and better, best use for our community in the long term? And are we making sure we protect ourselves?
That's a great question. And the restrictions that will be placed on the property will, one, be up to the land trust board, but secondly, will be imposed by our funders. So we are receiving approximately $3 million in state funding from the Department of Natural Resources and the Wildlife Conservation Board. And we sign grant agreements with those agencies that stipulate what we can and can't do. So those grant agreements pretty much would preclude building apartment buildings or a hotel on the property, but they do not preclude temporary activities. So if, for instance, we wanted to have an outdoor concert on the property in the future, if it was temporary in nature and we were, moving things on and off, that's an allowable use. But the terms of we're trying to put together a funding plan, and different agencies have different criteria. The airport, for instance, I'm sure wants an navigation easement to come with their funding. The protection of that corridor and the wildlife corridor is of key importance to, especially the Wildlife Conservation Board, understandably. And that grant agreement will preclude future development on the property.
Okay.
In the airport, I should say, if there are, special uses that the airport envisions now, or they want to allow in the future, you can also put that in your grant agreement with the land trust, and let's negotiate that. And we're happy to go discuss it with our friends at the Natural Resource Agencies and WCB to see if we can find some common ground there.
Would 700 foot long, maybe 60 foot wide strip be out of the question?
Of what? Asphalt?
No, just dirt. Dirt would be fine.
It just depends on what the intended use.
I'm just kidding around with that.
Oh, okay.
So you answered my question perfectly, and I just think that this can be such a great asset, and I just like to see the community over time figure out what its sort of highest and best use for the community is.
I would say that any future use will have to be compatible with the conservation values according to our grant agreements. I think that the biggest concern would be the development of impervious surfaces on the property, which is, of course, streets, driveways, home sites, and that sort of thing. But, whether or not we could, go out there and play wiffle ball, that's probably an allowable use.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question, because in most of the situations where we've teamed with the land trust, and that goes back to, 05, 06, you were the holder of the conservation easement and we owned the property, or you owned the property and we held the conservation easement. Is there a conservation easement per se on this, or is it just the grant agreements?
There are just the grant agreements with the other agencies. If the airport would like to be the grantee of an easement, that's entirely possible, and we can discuss that.
Okay. Conservation, that conserving aspect of it.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
I just make one more comment. I got roped into being on the Truckee Tahoe Airport Board in 2011, very inadvertently and unintentionally by my late wife, who was very passionate about being part of the airport, to protect it and to protect flying and to protect the aviation community, but also was very interested in making the right financial purchases of land around the airport to keep open space and to some degree to prevent housing from being built too close to the airport that would ultimately be turned into complainers of aviation noise, because we can't always stop the noise. So I guess I'd just like to say I think that this fits right front and center with that thought process, and I think it could be a great thing for our community to come together and work towards. And I hope Mary's list, you find some big supporters there as well.
Thank you.
I fly it all the time.
Maybe if I could just quickly add the purpose of the meeting tonight, and you may still probably public comment to take, or if there's other board members, but it's just really to introduce the item, and we intend on putting this on as an action item at a later meeting after you've had a chance to consider the various requests that have come forward on property acquisition. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the board.
Any other comments or discussions from board members? Or
I'm looking forward to this coming back, and I'm looking forward to hear the other two requests as well. So yeah, super looking forward to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I am as well. So that's it for that agenda item?
Yep, for public comment.
Right.
Truckee Springs sounds exciting. We have no public comment.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Perry.
Can't win.
Okay.
All right.
Go back to the consent agenda.
Yes, back to the minutes. Let's start with the minutes, Mary.
Okay. Start with the minutes. Just some minor line, line 74. Let's see. Line 74 reads, I'd like to have that changed to be a little more specific. In Vice President Hetherington noted that the tool shows an increase on runway 29 and decrease on other runways. I'd like that to be more specific. Noted that the tool shows a 50% increase in traffic on runway 1129, even though the total number of operations have increased by only 29%. That's the first comment. Second comment is on line 120. This is Vice President inquired about a discrepancy in operational data comparing Q2 2019 to 2020. Mr. Van Quest noted he will look at the data again and get back to her. I called David and spoke with them, and the discrepancy I noted, and what I'd like it to read is Vice President Hetherington noted that although the operational data stated that overall Q2 ops were down 10%, jet operations were actually up 14%. And I confirmed that with David afterward if you want to keep that statement in, or you can remove that. But that is a fact that jet operations were up 14%. Line 227, it's district website. Actually, it's not 227, it's 220, or it would be added at 227. Vice President Hetherington said there was consensus at the June board meeting to rotate information on the website front and center beyond photos of aircraft. Examples could include flight quiet hours, greenhouse gas information, flight aware or vector data, touch and go data, operations and comments report. The fly quiet emblem has gone up, but some of this other information about the Tranquility campaign, which staff is still working on what that means, but this idea of putting in information like go to vector or flight aware, touch and goes, how many the numbers are, the operations and comment data, the greenhouse gas information. So that data was, at the June 24th meeting, there was consensus to do that. And that's stuff I would like to see on their front and center besides aircraft. Because the airport is more than the aircraft. We could have the building, we could have some of the land that we've helped to purchase. We could,
Mary, on that is that the picture, so what we understood is that the picture that scrolls across, we could use other pictures besides just pictures of aircraft. And then on the website, we can try and highlight some of these other programs, which there's a lot of stuff on that.
Right. And like August 1 is still up there, and some of the July stuff. The emergency landing map could be put up there. Some of that, the website just needs to be upgraded.
I'm going to jump in.
I don't know if this has anything to do with the minutes, and it seems more like an agenda to talk about your desired outcome here.
No, right. This was all stuff that was agreed at June 24th, and I wanted it captured in the July 29th meeting because I brought it up again, and it was not captured at July 29th minutes.
I guess that's my question on the minutes of what the minutes reflect, because that's.
But you didn't capture it.
Well, I that's the thing is, if we have the same understanding as to what was said in the meeting, I guess, well.
The discussion, I'll jump in the discussion. The agenda item is approval of the minutes. So really all that can be discussed is whether the minutes should be modified. If Director Harrington has concerns tonight, that would probably be best discussed in the board member announcements.
So we need clarity on how you want the minutes modified, Mary?
Well, I gave you specifics at line 74, line 120, and line 227. So I read it to you what I asked.
Okay. We can put that on.
I had sent them in, and they said I had to read them at this point in order to have them incorporated into the minutes.
No, that's fine, and I don't have any problem with those being incorporated. What we may need to do is clarifies exactly what the minutes are exactly saying, because I still have a little confusion. But I think instead of having a discussion on that, we can talk about that on a different agenda.
I sent in wording that I requested to be added to the minutes, and I just read it, and then I'm okay.
You got it, Kevin?
Yeah, that's fine. If we're not actually meeting what those minutes are saying, if I have a different understanding, we'll have to talk about that at a future meeting. But I think we may be on the same page.
Great. So I move that we accept the July minutes as amended with Mary's comments.
I'd just like to make the comment that I'm perfectly okay amending the minutes if they were comments that weren't accurately adopted. But if, Kevin, you feel like we're trying to amend the minutes to something that wasn't said at the board meeting, or it's a misunderstanding of what was said at the board meeting, I don't feel like we should amend the minutes to that.
I went back and listened to the on the video. And
no, I don't think we need to worry too much. It's more of what exactly are we supposed to replace the pictures with data? That's the thing I've got to figure out, and that's what I'm thinking. Maybe at a future meeting we can talk about that.
Fine.
Got it.
So I make a second.
Roll call.
And,
Public comment.
Yeah, public comment.
yeah, I don't think we did that, so.
There is no public comment.
Great.
None.
Okay, Vice President Hetherington,
Yes.
Director Morrison,
Yes.
President Odette,
Yes.
Director Stevens,
Yes.
Director Wallace.
Yes.
Okay, on tab 3, monthly service bills and fees, I had a question on congressional support for $4,000. I'm just curious what that is.
So that's our monthly or quarterly. I can't remember how often we pay that, but we have our legislative consultant lobbyist in Washington D.C. We have a contract that was approved by the board. That's our payment to them. We interact with those folks on a regular basis. We have a meeting.
What are they lobbying for?
Anything we need with the FAA. So the most recent one was getting a meeting with 3 or 4 FAA officials to discuss our application into the contract tower program and to kind of figure out, how they could modify that program for seasonal traffic like we have. Those things like that.
He also helped us get ADSB approved.
We did.
Okay. And then there was a thing to Sierra Skyport, and is that the new name for Mountain Lion?
That's their old name, actually. I think they still have an LLC or something that's under that name. So sometimes you'll see that come up.
So we paid them $1,681 for the aircraft rental to...
I'd have to, maybe Kelly knows. Imagine Skyhawk was for the airplane.
Yeah, that was for aircraft rental for Mark.
Oh, yeah,
and Hardy to
that was
go
Hardy.
to. They went to a meeting, your conference.
Okay. I mean, is that the aircraft that we purchased?
No, that was a different aircraft that they used.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. I go through it and see these interesting things. So I'll make a motion.
Public comment?
Yeah.
Negative.
Motion to approve the monthly service bills and fees.
Second.
The roll call. Vice President Hetherington?
Yes.
Director Morrison?
Yes.
President Odette?
Yes.
Director Stevens?
Yes.
Director Wallace?
Yes.
Okay, on the monthly operations and comment report, I forwarded some of those next door comments, and then it's up to 154 comments. Some of them related to the U2, and it was kind of cool, and people liked it. Other people didn't. Some of it's in support, but a lot of people are really feeling overwhelmed. So I just wanted the board to be aware of that. In looking at the operations and comment report, what I'm noticing at the jet weight comparisons is that we've moved from the smaller jets to the bigger jets. The overall number staying similar between 19 and 20, but what we're getting is the 12.5 up to 50,000, 49.9. So the bigger jets are coming in, and that's something we should be aware of. These increases, 25 new households, that's pretty big. And it's also interesting in terms of the bigger jets that for significant portions of July, 1129 was closed, I think for about a week while work was being done on the blast pad.
Yeah, it was off and on.
So what we're finding is that you would think, well, bigger jets couldn't use 220. So, I mean, there's no linkage to dates and whatnot, but the awareness that jets are able to use 220 and that we're seeing more bigger jets. So those were of interest to me. The 44 non-EMS operations in terms of the curfew, voluntary curfew operations, and then seeing that there's actually traffic starting to happen at 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. arrivals. That's concern for people who are sleeping. Those might be nurses that you have to deal with the next day. Those could be teachers. About this 44 non-EMS, 7 jets, 31 pistons, and 4 turboprops that were outside of the curfew hours. Is that what that means, David?
Yeah, that's those numbers were flying between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
So, you know, the numbers are getting bigger, and people are feeling it. And 154 comments in what I think that next door thing started around the 12th or 13th, in 2 weeks. Maybe not even that early, I don't remember. But there was this idea, let's move this to a quarterly basis, but I think we need to keep it active in all our minds of the tension out there.
Fair enough. Thank you.
My comment, which I sent in to Dave, was on the 20th of August, 2 pilots did 6 takeoffs between 9 and 10 p.m. for training purposes, and it got significant comments, and I expressed an interest. Why couldn't they go do that instead of hammering the neighborhoods immediately north of the airport?
You know, and this goes to the mission statement. We're meeting the first part, it's a quality airport. We're meeting the last part, we do a lot for community at large. This middle part about striving for low impact on the neighboring communities. I just keep pushing that middle section.
I think we're all pushing it. I think we're all on the same page.
Problem, and we are 100% committed as staff to that low impact and work at it very hard every day. We'll keep working hard at it.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo. I think the airport works really hard at it and has for a really long time. I'd love to hear your ideas, Mary. You consistently bring it up like there's a staff or a relating board that perhaps doesn't take it seriously. I think everyone takes it seriously. We've been talking about it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
What's the idea? And maybe with that, I'd also like to make the comment, Teresa, could you give us an update on the escrows in the area? And could we balance the concept of the airport traffic and complaints are up with the fact that the community at large is just extremely impacted and extremely busy right now?
Absolutely. It's normally this time of year we have about 250 escrows, and today we have 568. And they are mostly primary residences, not vacation homes. So people are coming in and staying. But I want to echo what you said, Jim, and Mary, I'm eager to hear any suggestions that you have or anything you think that we could be doing that we're not doing.
Well, I mean, it's like earlier in our meeting where I talk about putting the fly quiet information front and center in each hangar, where I talk about
we all agreed.
Right.
Definitely.
And it's stuff that, putting the emergency landing gear thing out, putting out the greenhouse gas impact, that we're going to talk about a little later. It's this idea of you have this just goes back for years. I mean, the rights, everybody has rights and everybody wants their rights, but that you can get 154 comments. And I'm hoping every board member read those 154 comments. That people are very, feeling like, and a lot of those people have lived here 30 years. I've lived here 30 years, but it's like, hello, what, I can't sleep. What, you're hammering me. It's way worse than it is. And the numbers are showing it.
And I think we all totally are on the same page with you on that. It's what can we do about it? Do you have something in mind?
Well,
besides changing the website and
I'm saying we need to open up the master plan again and look at some of those other alternatives that we had talked about early on and then rejected. And we need to talk about what are our options. I mean, we had Kirsch come and talk to us in an open session. Maybe we need to have a talk with him in a closed session. There are options out there. There are a lot of communities facing these issues, and we are blessed with having funding. I mean, and we are a model for many airports, but we need to look at what we can do. And I don't know that, I mean, everybody says we care, but as a community member, and what I hear from my neighbors is they're blowing me off. They don't care. And I hear it a lot. So do we care?
Do you have an action item that we can consider?
Let's move on. I'll make a motion to approve the monthly operations and comment report. It wouldn't really fall in here anyway because it's not on the agenda to come up with an idea right now, is it, Brent?
This is just.
Do we have any public comment?
There's no public comment.
There's no motion required
to approve. It was a consent item that had not been approved, so it does need to be approved.
There's a consent action items list and there's a consent information items list. We don't have to approve the consent information items.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Then we're going to the number 7, ACAT member selection process.
I'll turn that over to Hardy Bullock.
Yeah, I have a brief staff report there. Every year it works similar process. We cycle a member or two off of ACAT. We start that preparation, the advertisement portion in August. Right now we're looking for a single pilot seat from Joe Lorenz. Joe moved away and resigned from ACAT, although it did conclude his term in September. So essentially the term we're looking to fill is a pilot member for a 3-year term. I've sent the board one pilot applicant so far. I've only received one application. And essentially what we'll do in the September meeting, I worked with Brent to organize a discrete poll electronically. So we're going to send board member selections to Brent, and then Brent's going to read those out. The members are going to either record a video or be present on the Zoom meeting so they can address the board for their 3-minute time period.
Excuse me, Hardy. I think you meant the candidates, right? Not the members?
Yeah, did I say members?
Yeah, the candidate, yeah.
Yeah, the ACAT candidates will either present for 3 minutes or send in a prefabricated video that we can play for the board. And then the board members will listen to that. We'll have the discrete poll with Brent electronically over Zoom. That's going to be the first time we've done that. And then select that member, pilot member for a 3-year term. And then I just wanted to update the board on the current term. So the next group, member Caldwell will term out in September 2021, and member Larson and member Rolfe will also complete their terms in September of 2021. That's all I have for the report unless there are questions.
You also may have some vacancies this year if, depending on there are 2 ACAT members running for the board.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we've really been pressing the pilot community to come forward and submit applications to the board for selection for ACAT. So there are people that we're talking to that have shown interest in in applying. So we hope that they'll come in before the 18th of September. So if the board, we could use the board's help. If anybody on the board has people that are willing to serve on ACAT, please send them our way. We'll give them a description and talk with them at length so they understand the commitment.
Great. Any public comment?
Not on that, but we did, not on that topic, but just after we finished the option comment report, related to it after we moved on.
You're breaking up, David.
You guys hear me now? No.
Well, I'll jump in. What I heard him say is no public comment on the ACAT matter, but he did, as he said on the chat, that he did receive a public comment on the operations and comment report after the matter, was completed. So if the board wants, they can hear it, but they're not legally required to.
For sure, we should hear it.
You guys hear me now? Hello?
Sort of.
If you can't hear me, I just posted it in the chat. I'll read it. It says, hi there. I would like to ask the board whether the community is being given the message that noise abatement programs and curfews are voluntary for pilots. Thanks, Andrea.
Okay.
And who was that from, they say?
That was from Andrea Schaefer.
Okay. And
okay.
So no other public comment for Hardy's last topic.
And do we need to vote on that? Accepting ACAT, or we just move on?
Just an overview.
Okay. Then let's do the next one, which is quarterly pilot and passenger outreach report.
There's an ACAT report still.
Oh, that's not what we just did, right? Who's doing the ACAT?
You're up on the ACAT report?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay, all right. So for the July 7th meeting for ACAT, we had full attendance with the exception of Joe, who is no longer on ACAT, as you just discussed. And our action items were the minutes from the previous meeting, an overview of the airport neighborhood network program, and we got a presentation on flight procedures, runway utilization tool that you've seen in the board previously, that Mary and Kevin.
David, we can hardly hear you. Speak up.
Sorry. Okay. And we got a report from Mark Lamb on communications. So on slide 4, the airport neighbor network, I gave you an overview of this last time. Our ad hoc did meet on this, and we revised some of our plans for moving forward with it. We will bring those plans to our next ACAT meeting, and then we will bring the outcome of that to you. And then on slide 5 here, this is just the runway utilization report. This has been covered in the board before, so you were familiar with it. ACAT got an overview of this in the meeting. And on slide 6, we got a district community update from Mr. Lamb. And on slide 7, what is happening at the next issue or the meeting is a review of the community neighborhood network program, as I just mentioned, a review of the home buyer's guide, which I want to talk to you about in just one second. We will select a vice chair because Joe had served as vice chair before, and we will review the environmental project and program, or excuse me, environmental impacted program. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I'm on the East Coast, so my brain is a little bit fried right now, so apologize for that. The home buyer's guide that was given to you in your board book, and we've come at kind of a crossroads of it. We've had some good input on it, and we've had some questions about the direction and the origin of that piece as well. Are we able to bring that up here?
Yeah, I'm just trying to bring it up.
So I'll just speak while Hardy's pulling that up there. So our ad hoc, we got very, very, very close to done with this, or what we considered to be done, to be able to show it to you. And then before we finished it completely, we wanted to show it to the board and just kind of get your sense of this, whether we were generally okay with it or whether you had some concerns about it. The Sierra Board of Realtors has decided to not have their logo on it. They could not come to a consensus. I got information from our contact there about who liked it and who didn't like it and why they liked it or why they didn't like it, but they generally agreed that they could not come to a consensus, so they did not want to have their logo on it. And we've also got some changes to be made to the events list that you see in this, and also we've got some minor changes to the map on the inside. So what the ad hoc asked me to do was to ask you board members if you had any specific thoughts on this, either positive or negative, or ideas that you would rather see it going in a different direction, or just any questions in general about it.
Yeah, this is Lisa. I'm sorry, David. I did not give it a detailed read. I missed the point that this was a meeting to do that. So I'm wondering if there's a process either for the whole board or for me individually offline to do that detailed read and send feedback. I'm open to either way. Either comes back to the board, bummer for you, I know, or after this meeting, send you some feedback.
It's up to the five of you. Whatever works for you, we'll take that back to ACAT and we'll make it work on our end.
David, can I ask real quick? I think this still has to, the ad hoc on ACAT's looked at it, but you're still showing it to the full ACAT team.
We are scheduled to show it to the full ACAT team, and what I'm hoping to do, and the ad hoc echoes me on this, is that we're hoping to be able to show it to ACAT with board input, so that we will explain to ACAT what our next plan is with it right now. So that's where we're at right now, is we're kind of on hold with it pending input from the board.
Well, we can definitely tee it up for our September board meeting as a discussion item, a more formal discussion item, if that's the will of the board.
I looked at it, and I think the concept is really great, because otherwise people are finding out about the airport being here at the time of signing. But that's kind of late in the process. I think the idea of this going out with realtors, but if they don't buy in, then we have a problem. But the idea that people would be aware. My problem with this app, though, is that if I'm buying out in Glenshire, it doesn't look like there's any overflights over me. If I'm in Tahoe Donner, I got nothing going over me. If I'm in North Star or even over at the lake, these lines that the planes are flying are actually smaller than the roadways. I think the concept is really a great concept. This doesn't feel like it's a hit. This feels like somebody, in fact, I know somebody who bought a house in Stony Creek Estates. It was a pilot, and he bought in Stony Creek Estates, and then he was pissed. I heard this from the realtor, because he had so many overflights. Another idea on this map is to be showing where Truck 4 is, where the IFR, because that is a big portion and a growing portion of our aircraft. And somehow capturing that there's been a 3-time increase over the last 15 years, to be specific that you're going to be overflown. You are going to have aircraft noise. And that was part of these 154 comments as I was reading some of them. And, people in Glenshire were saying, we're in a no-fly zone. And people in Tahoe Don are saying they're in a no-fly zone. This is wrong information, but it's out there in the public sphere. And this creates an illusion like, oh, that's the other person's issue, not mine. So I have some real concerns about this, and it feels a little too, I think this would do more harm than good, personally.
It's why the realtors don't want to support it. They don't want to put their blessing
and get caught.
Yeah.
Interesting about that is that one of the biggest comments or the concerns that the realtors had was exactly what Mary's concern was, that it did not paint the picture as bleak as the picture is in some areas.
As what?
As bleak as it is in some areas where there's more noise in certain areas. This was the realtors who were against this had that same feeling.
They wanted to have more to the awareness. You will have overflights,
Right.
and you get the benefits of the airport, and then these are the costs of the airport. And
one of the ideas that the ad hoc had after our information from the realtors was that we have a link on this to a dashboard of sorts on the website where all the flight statistics and everything were centralized. So people could see trend over time, people could see the number of complaints from a given neighborhood, and they could see more detail about, like, for example, if on the Glenshire area, that there is no such thing as a no-fly zone. As you were saying, Mary, there is a lot of misinformation out about that. But that they can be able to see on the various neighborhoods, these are the complaints we've had in the neighborhood in the last X number of times. And that we use that as a place for this map to jump off to for those people who are interested in more detail.
how about working with the chamber? If the realtors won't buy in, I mean, I'm just brainstorming. But how would people get this prior to and certain neighborhoods do have navigation easements where, that is part of the signature. And if you're 3 miles out from the airport, you do sign an airport influence area saying, I know I'm within 3 miles of the airport. I think the concept of this is awesome. This is a miss to me. And
maybe we're opening ourselves up to lawsuits with this map if it doesn't really show the reality. And I have a navigation easement, and I knew it. I read the title report, but nobody reads the title reports.
Exactly. And at the point of when you're signing papers, it's a done deal. You're not, what does this mean? I'm not going to not buy it. Yeah.
Yeah, my initial, when I brought the project to ACAT, my initial goal was, or I should say my initial draft was basically a text heavy, I don't know, it was 7 or 8 pages long that went into detail about a lot of this stuff. And through various discussions, the ad hoc brought it down to this trifold two-sided panel thing. Which is why we were thinking that maybe now we need to move a little bit back in that direction, but maybe a dashboard kind of an option would be good. Because the question still remains that, as you and Mary and Rick had stated, that when folks are moving into the area, they either don't know that there's an airport here, or they're told by a realtor that there's an airport here, but they don't know what that means. Because people think sometimes that the airport is only an issue if you're right under the departure path. So if they look at a map and see that they're not under the departure path, they might think that that's absolutely fine. There's nothing to worry about there. So the idea behind this was to kind of give them an overview of the impact of the area. And then that led into, there were some that felt that the negatives should be weighed with the positives. So some of the positives were brought forth in this. So that's basically where we're at. We're interested if you think we should scrap the entire project, if you think that we should work with staff to do an online dashboard where there's one page, whether it's truckeeairport.com/stats or one unified URL that could be published everywhere, including on this, where somebody could go and actually see all of the statistics for the airport, including operations, including history, including comments. Would that work as a partner to this, or would you see something completely different, or would you like it the way it is? So if the decision is not made tonight on that. It would be great for ACAT if as Director Wallace pointed out, if the directors would maybe forward their suggestions. I don't know if this is legal or not, to Kevin or Hardy, for a communication to ACAT as individual directors.
The cutout there, I didn't know if I got the full question on that.
Yeah, I think I know what you want. I think it's fine if the directors want to mull it over and then forward it to me and I can present it. I mean, we have an ACAT meeting in less than a week. We can get it back to ACAT, and then the ad hoc and the ACAT can actually take action. I think that fulfills your timely requirement that you're looking for, David, because you don't want to go another month. So I have no problem helping in that process if that's how you want to go.
If that works for the board, that would be perfect for us.
It's certainly in compliance with the Brown Act, as long as you don't start sending your comments to the other board members, but sending it to Hardy is fine.
And then Hardy, in terms of the brainstorming, you know, and all that data that David as well, I assume if David's still here, you know, brainstorming how that data might be summarized. I mean, it's a big set of data. So how do we portray it? But that's what you guys get paid for, is thinking up how this could be portrayed.
Yeah, we can take all the comments and then talk to ACAT, but there's a lot of tools, big data tools out there now that actually display big sets of data and dynamic data. So that's an option for us. If that's something the board wants us to focus on, it certainly may be an outgrowth for this project. This is identified as a project, but I think if the board also, you know, you could attend the ACAT meeting as well. It's on Zoom, so it shouldn't be too much of an inconvenience to attend that. But I'll take all the board comment. I'll make sure that I copy the ACAT Chair Diamond on that, and then we'll make sure that the ACAT can weigh in on all of that.
If I could maybe quickly add, we could also work with realtors. They have on realtor.com and on both on the website and the app a noise overlay. And it is interesting, that noise overlay, when you click on it, it does show the airport, and it appears to show the noise contours. But I wanted to kind of dive into that and see where they get that data, and see if that needs to be updated with the data that we have. But that's another one, and that's, you know, that honestly, that's where most folks, when they're looking at buying houses, they're able to click on that and see some of those noise impacts through that app, and maybe working with them through their app in addition to what we're doing could help. And then the second comment was, we may want to have just some conversations with some of the folks that live in those neighborhoods to make sure they know that we're putting out information like this. They may feel, I'm already impacted by noise, and now you're telling people not to buy my house. And so we just want to make sure that that's not the message that this would convey.
It's a very fine line that we're trying to do here, but I respect ACAT for trying.
Sure, I think of that.
The fact that the brokers won't endorse this makes me concerned about doing it at all. Brent, do we have any liability if we put out this map that isn't very definitive, and somebody says, well, there are no planes flying over the home I bought, but now they are?
I mean, the answer is, can we be sued? The answer to that is always yes.
Anybody can sue anybody. Right.
The question is who's going to win? Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a possibility. Both of the concerns is, one, that you haven't notified somebody in one of those areas, or two, that people that are living in a highlighted area now are saying, you know, you've done an inverse condemnation of my property, and the value's gone down. So those are concerns. I mean, I don't think it would be a clear cut. It certainly would not be a clear cut case, but the possibility is always there. How's that for a somewhat answer?
A lawyer answer.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm concerned about doing this at all. It's very honorable what they're trying to do, but I think it's fraught with difficulties.
I'd just like to make a comment. Can we not lose sight of the fact that there's words right next to the picture? Have you all read those words?
Thank you. Yes.
The flight paths, they're really small on my computer screen. So the flight paths shown on the map depict the most common routes, but aircraft are legally permitted to fly wherever they want to fly. I mean, it says it right there.
Jim, is that all right if I go ahead? Did you have anything else?
No, I appreciate everyone's concerns. I think they're really valid and really good discussion. But I guess what I'm hopeful of is we're putting something out there that says we're trying to do this. If it sparks conversation, good. If it leads to better solutions, good. But just not doing anything doesn't seem good to me.
I will admit, David, when you started the project, I was uncertain that the realtor group would go along with it at the end. I was uncertain about that, but I think it was great that you went through the process with John Falk, and definitely a worthwhile process and mock-up for the map. And it might be that we can still continue to bring something forward. Maybe there isn't, maybe what happens is, for example, we don't have a diagram. I'm not sure. It's kind of an awkward situation to be doing problem solving like that. But I do think it's been worthwhile that we know that there's a set of realtors that would support something like this. Obviously, there's a set that won't, but it does give us some good data to try to make another run at this type of communication piece. It doesn't surprise me that this is the outcome at this point, but we're not at the end point for this idea.
I think it's also worth noting, which kind of confused us in the email that we got back from John, where we got some of the positive comments and some of the negative comments. The bottom summary was that even though their logo was not on it, they would like to be able to have access to it for their clients.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some merit in trying to find the middle path, middle way.
Right. So that was
so maybe that idea of it. Maybe the idea of it just. Oh, so go ahead.
I'm sorry. The thing that surprised us most is that we were afraid that the realtor group would come back with that concern that, what are you trying to do, stop us from selling property in the region? And it was actually the opposite of that, which made us think that maybe what they were thinking was that if we start to tell the story and we don't tell the entire story, that opens us up for more liability than if we didn't tell any story. That's what
what Lisa just said kind of resonated with me, and that maybe it's just a text and there's not a map. It's just a discussion, and maybe it's, if we have to show a map, because we get, maybe it's just a flyer without the map.
Maybe to follow on that, Mary, is that it could point them, if it doesn't have a map, it could point them to some of our, the extensive work we've done on these things, so people can look at our website. Can I, real quick, Dave, did they at all talk about their noise tool that they've got on their website on Realtor.com?
Not mentioned.
And I'm on Realtor.com and I can't find it. Where is it on Realtor.com?
Go and find it. Yeah, it's a layer that you click on, and you can add all kinds of stuff.
Well, if you can send that to me, that would be awesome, because I'd like to see that.
Yeah, one other thought, if I'm sure it's technologically possible, is, with our flight tracking system, we've got the spaghetti of where all the flights are. And if you could superimpose that on a map, or just use the map that we get from the flight tracking system, that would alleviate the concern that we're not presenting the whole picture. It would not alleviate the concern about people who already own houses there and are trying to sell it. But at least we can say, this is the flight. These are the flights that occurred in the month of August or July or whatever.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Okay, so if there's no other questions for me, if the directors, if you've got input that you could get to Hardy and then Hardy could relay that to ACAT, that would be perfect for us.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Any public comment?
Yep. Can you guys hear me this time?
Yes.
All right. This comment comes from Matt Miller. Matt says, airport is not in the business of real estate, please. It punishes current residents living near the airport and lowers their property values. It looks like the airport wants old neighbors to die off and new move-ins to shut up. Against project 100%. Scrap it. Sounds like blackmail, and Jim doesn't live here anymore. That's it.
Okay. All right, so we can move on to the pilot and passenger outreach report.
All right, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to get my screen share here. Just bear with me 1 second. All right. So good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Covey. I'm the pilot and passenger outreach coordinator here at KTRK. A little bit about myself. I've worked here at Truckee Airport since 2014, started out in the operations team, and then made a segue into aviation and community services in November of 2018. I'm a instrument rated private pilot, soon to be a commercial pilot, and soon again thereafter to be a commercially rated float plane pilot. So today I'm going to talk to you about our efforts here at KTRK with pilot and passenger outreach. Hold on 1 second here. All right, our pilot and passenger outreach mission is to build cohesion and adherence in the local, itinerant, corporate aviation community to enhance flight safety, noise abatement, and curfew compliant flight operations while being good neighbors to our local community. How are we reaching out to our pilots and passengers? We're speaking daily to pilots and passengers on the ramp, on the phone, and in the terminal. We're handing out our noise abatement procedures card to as many pilots and passengers as possible every day. We are listening to the ground control frequency for the indication of first-time visitors. A good indication of that is when somebody says, "Where's the transient parking?" And then I will go meet with them plainside and hand out the noise abatement card and talk about our procedures and curfew times here at Truckee. Another tool that we're using is a piece of software called Flight Bridge, which allows us to liaise with our corporate operators. We also have routine contact with our commercial operators, such as NetJets, RSF, Solaris Aviation, before holidays or perceived big weekends to anticipate demand. This in turn will enable us to work with our air traffic control staff for noise reduction. And one way we can accomplish this is by departing non-instrument flight rules traffic off runway 2 if the aircraft type allows. Another way we're reaching out to our pilot community is by Stacy Justison's daily operation information, which is emailed to over 100 pilots, and her email does include noise abatement information. We are making presentations at regional airports. We'll talk about that more in just a minute, but there's very high demand and very strong attendance. We are providing the KTRK familiarization program where pilots are able to sync up with a local flight instructor to learn exactly what the noise abatement procedures are. We're making national presentations. Hardy in 2019 presented at 5 national conferences or conventions, and I met with 60 pilots in person back when you could do that at Napa Airport. We did have several planned corporate visits this year with Wheels Up on the East Coast, FlexJet in the Midwest, and some others. Unfortunately, COVID-19 had certainly other plans for us. But we also have been able to reach out to a lot of pilots this year. And I'm very proud that between August 1st and August 19th of this month, or this year rather, we were able to reach out to 191 pilots that's on the ramp and at a presentation at San Carlos Airport.
Does that 191 include the 60 at San Carlos?
We had 90 at San Carlos, and then we'll say 101 on the ramp.
So over 19 days, that's like 5 a day?
Yeah, it's various. Some days, August 2nd, I met with 21 pilots where it was a very busy day. August 4th, 11, I've kept a running tally.
Okay. And then at top, you say, speaking daily to pilots and passengers, and I think this is great. How many passengers are you actually getting to speak with?
Well, we try to speak with as many passengers as possible. I haven't kept the running tally with that. We'll address the passenger issue in just a little bit more challenging with the passengers. A lot of times when they're here, they're on the ramp ready to go on their flight with NetJets or whomever. So, making that direct outreach at that time is a little bit more challenging, a lot of fluid pieces there.
But, it might be worth keeping that tally as well.
Okay. I'll definitely look into that.
That one thing to keep in mind with the outreach to the pilot, a lot of it are the same pilots. So, if we have 5,903 operations in July, that's a lot of those are by the same people. So we don't really, just keep that in mind. You look at that number.
That's fair. Stacy's daily operations information. So she's sending out an email every day. Is that something I could get?
I do not see why not.
Okay.
Yeah, on that list.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple more slides here for you folks. So here up in front of you is just an image during a presentation at San Carlos. We're discussing our noise abatement procedures, our curfew. Very important during this period of time that we do live Q&A. So people are very clear and concise about where we want them to fly and not want them to fly, as you see those orange polygons on the arrival and departure map. And then also, as we've discussed, the importance of adhering to our 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew.
And before you leave that, can I make one more comment?
Go ahead.
And I'm very proud of the work that Mark has done on that. And again, looking at these July numbers, there's 5,903 operations, and we only had 22 transient operations that were outside that curfew. Now that's 22 too many, but when you consider total operations, I think we're having some success, and most of those 22 transient curfews are really close or fairly close to the curfew hours. So those are the ones that we're attacking. The other 22 transient or tenant operations, just all of those were within the 6 to 7 or the 10 to 11, the curfews that we have with them that, if we get a new curfew going, maybe we can eliminate those too with some additional incentive. I thought that was good work.
So the other question I would have on here is, in these reach outs, it's pilot. And again, this is the way we sort of talk about operations globally. And we talk about, but specific to jet, turbo, piston type Cirrus, and then regular pistons. I think there's some clarity there that needs to be made because they're different types of they're different type of pilot. So just asking, a little more breakout in terms of 191 pilot interactions. Well, how many of them were jet pilots for corporate? How many of them were private jet pilots? How many
on our next slide, we're going to get into that a little bit more, but just speaking directly to that point, I was invited to on the next slide, the 3 entities that invited us to speak, the Intermountain West Weather Workshop, Benton Air Center out of Reading, and San Carlos Flight Center. So I don't have a great breakdown other than what I got directly, what you see in front of you from Benton Air, that there was a multitude of corporate attendees, a couple from Florida, a couple from New England. The Intermountain West Weather Aviation Workshop, I don't know exactly how many people were pilots or how many people were forecasters. It was a 2-day event that covered a pretty great deal of information. The folks out of the National Weather Service in Reno were very interested to talk to Truckee because of our unique weather situations.
Mm-hmm.
And then San Carlos Flight Center does a lot of primary flight training, and I would assume that a lot of those folks of that 90 that attended were possibly primary flight students. But out of those 3 meetings, we did be able to make contact with 333 people, so I think that's pretty fantastic.
Great.
Moving on. On the left-hand side, you'll see a copy of our flight procedures card, as we talked about before and saw. Obviously, educating people to stay out of the yellow areas where the residences are, and then, of course, the red glider zone there. What you see on the right is a screenshot from that piece of software I talked about called Flight Bridge. This is how we have a good ability to liaise with our corporate flight departments. Not everybody uses Flight Bridge, but a growing number of different commercial operators of greatly varying sizes are beginning to adapt to Flight Bridge. So that's a great mechanism that we have. And what I've done here is I've just kind of red letterboxed around a couple of important things. The top part, I know it's very tough to see on the screen, but the top part is basically asking folks to take a look at our curfew and noise abatement procedures, and there's a link provided. And then down on the bottom, as we mentioned before about weather and whatnot, that letterbox area is inviting people to take a look at our METARs and also very specifically our webcam here.
On this page, I was reading it and noticed that actually it's saying that weight restriction at KTRK is 90,000 pounds without prior permission. And actually our rating in the master plan is 80,000 pound dual wheel. So I'm wondering why 90,000, because our master plan says 80.
Okay, that could be a numerical error that needs to be corrected.
Okay, thank you.
As we're talking on the subject of our presentations are an awesome forum to discuss something that was mentioned earlier in this meeting, and that's our emergency landing project. This is something that I highlighted during our meeting at San Carlos, and I am proud to say that lots of, even though it was a virtual meeting, there was a decent amount of interest and applause in that. So we did show those folks where that information is located on our website.
Handing that out to folks would be great, along with the noise abatement.
Yep, that is a mission that we're currently working on to get that set up in a nice print format and be able to hand out a trifold to folks along with the noise abatement card.
Thank you.
Another important job that goes along with pilot and passenger outreach is to work as a liaison with our air traffic control tower. And the way we do that is we maintain a great line of communication for flight safety and noise abatement procedure. We do that. All the air traffic controllers have my phone number. They'll send text. They'll call if they get somebody that sounds like they're very unfamiliar as they enter the airspace. I can go out and meet with them after the air traffic controller tells them, what areas to avoid and basically follow 267 coming in, or I-80 into 20 or something like that. We also meet regularly to discuss trends and drive new annoyance reduction solutions. And we work as a cohesive team to assist those, as I mentioned, that are unfamiliar with the airspace, and then work on new flight procedures to help lessen the community impact. This is a very ongoing and continuous effort that we have. This is just a picture of what typical outreach looks like. The guy on the left is a corporate operator. The guys on the right, never been to Truckee before. They're here with their backcountry plane and transitioning the area. So this effort goes on 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If I'm not here on the ramp, then Hardy's around or David Van Quest. We have very robust efforts to make outreach with our pilots. Our other means of outreach that we have is the KTRK pilot news, ads on media such as FlightAware, AirNav, also our biannual pilot news and e-blasts that go up to go out to up to 1,000 recipients. We supply noise abatement cards and attend events at local flight schools and regional flying clubs. Went down to Great Basin and Reno not too long ago. They have a pretty large flight school and have lots of folks that do fly up to Truckee for mountain familiarization. So with those cards and with those attendants, we do send out the message of tranquility and flying quiet here at Truckee. As I mentioned, and as we all know, the passenger outreach is one of our biggest challenges. And then we do have a hangar tenant curfew incentive survey that you will be hearing about and we'll be looking at in October 2020. Really impressive so far. We've had 123 responses out of 206 tenants that were emailed. So that's probably unheard of, I would say, in survey response. A different aspect that that will be part of our outreach campaign was touched on a little bit earlier is our greenhouse gas operator outreach. And what that will look like is we'll have infographics and marketing about carbon footprints, greenhouse gases, and offset options. We'll also highlight some of the efforts that we've already begun here at Truckee Airport to reduce greenhouse gas emissions with battery-powered vehicles, e-bikes, and hopefully down the road, some solar generation. We'll also develop web-based carbon offset programs, and we'll converse with operators about the feasibility of using sustainable aviation fuel at Truckee, which is having a pretty decent uptick in acceptance in the pilot community. We'll also continue our speaking engagements at national and regional forums and at regional airports. We'll build on the theme of tranquility. The other thing that we'll continue to do is continue an ongoing discussion about the use of alternate runway or lengthened runway 20 runway to reduce impact, track miles, and fuel burn.
Why is it as lengthened 20? I mean, some people could be doing that now.
Hey, Mark, I think you're doing an awesome job. I really appreciate you highlighting all these things that you guys are working on. And I just wanted to give you some positive feedback and some positive comments.
Much appreciated, Director Morrison. In closing, I'd just like to say that I'm really proud of the work that we all do here. I think we have an awesome team. I think we all have great ideas. I'm proud of the fact that we have other airports across the nation, such as Naples, PDX, Big Bear, Petaluma, Teterboro, that look to us for noise abatement guidance and check in with us regularly to ask us what successes we're having and what they can do to help emulate it. On that note, I'd just like to say thanks everyone for tuning in, and any other questions I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mark.
that was excellent. Want to take down the screen share?
Ready.
Screen share.
I wanted to mention one quick piece. One of the ways that we do a lot of pilot outreach, it just kind of happens organically when we go to conferences. So many of the people we talk to over the course of the year, we may contact. We may see them 2-3 times a year. And so one of the pieces that Mark and I have worked heavily to kind of leverage is, while we're already out there doing it, is set up meetings and meet with the corporate pilots, chief pilots, aircraft owners, aircraft operators, and I'm personally involved in the National Business Aircraft Association. So we try and make those industry connections, and people know about Truckee. They know who to call when they are coming here. So I just want to mention there's a whole layer that happens kind of organically in the background of pilot, particularly pilot outreach, chief pilot, commercial pilot outreach.
Hey, Mark,
All right, you gotta
take down the screen share.
Share. I'm looking for that button right now. Bear with me 1 second, folks.
I got you, Mark.
All right, thanks, Hardy.
Yeah.
We don't want to see your text messages. All right. Any other questions for Mark? Any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, excellent report, Mark. Thanks for all you're doing. Next is quarterly safety and security.
The Stacy Justison.
Good evening, y'all. How you doing tonight? I'm
Good.
Stacy Justison, Airport Security and Safety Manager. In the second quarter, we had 12 reports. The first 6 you'll notice: operations and maintenance, aviation, ramp and services. Those are half of our safety reports, and they're all focused on vehicles. In summary, all of these reports, they stem from human factors, which led to human errors. Those human factors were complacency, being in a hurry, feeling rushed, operating outside the normal, or making assumptions. So we huddled up in a safety meeting, and we realized we needed to get back to the basics, not only from suddenly feeling in a rush to do things when we weren't used to being in a rush anymore, but also just to get back to the basics. So we went down, and in July, we started with the driver safety course. And then later on this year, we're going to do another airport drivers safety course. The next ones that you'll see, the last 6 are about hangars. We have 5 hangar door momentary safety switches, which were bypassed. 3 were first offense. 1 was a second offense. And 1 was a multiple offender. What I'd like to highlight is the 6th one, which was the purpose for our momentary safety switches. It was that incident where the tenant was trying to raise his door. He kept pushing the button. It wouldn't raise, so we called up maintenance. Maintenance came over and realized that there were the hangar door latches were in the locked position. So it was an easy fix, and it basically prevented the cables from snapping, from being over tight, or from the motor burning up. Any questions on our safety reports?
I'm curious about the offenders. Is there anything that happens with that? I mean, do we, it's for their own safety. And
Sure.
then the airport carries some liability with that. So,
Yes, ma'am.
And we know of a situation where a hangar door fell down and almost got one of our staff. So this is a real concern for safety. And is there anything that happens, first time, oh, well, you know better. Second time is what? Third time is
Sure.
Has staff sort of considered what that might be?
Yes, ma'am, we have. Oh, sorry. We do have a process in place for that. And we are looking at the finer details of non-compliance for the multiple offender, which we don't have many of them. So ultimately, we're weighing the possible outcomes and possibilities for either fees or waivers. I'm working with the general manager, the directors, the O&M supervisors, and ultimately with that intellectual pool, I'm positive that we'll come up with a good solution.
You said waiver, and California and waivers don't really mean anything, do they, Brent?
They can. It depends on the situation. Is it voluntary? Is it mandatory? Do the people have the ability to, take other action to avoid it? It's going to be looked at at a case-by-case basis.
We need to be very careful with that then if somebody is, it's for their own safety, so it's kind of a shock. But because pilots are supposed to be all about safety, and then to not be safe about this is interesting. Okay. And the other question was about what is a VEDR system or something?
Oh, yeah, that's in the training. We can talk about the great training we do here right now. How's that?
Okay, you're on the next page. All right.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions on the safety reports from anybody? Okay. So our great training program. We conducted 3 of our OSHA training programs. We're right on schedule with that one. Airport specific training. I think we're a little short on our airport specific training, but that really is based on COVID social distancing, where some of our outside trainers are unavailable. And that's where, for instance, H&E would come in and they would do forklift and boom lift training. We would have Truckee PD come in and they would every 2 to 3 years, and they would do like a tactical communications training for us. And then we were going to put on a tugging operations training, but that got sidelined right now too. So we're hoping to get those as the year continues and COVID hopefully gets better, or we'll push it into the next year. But we were able to do the Vita route system. That's basically a fuel management system for a fuel inventory, and it does have backups, backup safety alarms, which prevent us from overfills, for instance. And then we also did fire extinguisher training, and on that we also get to do live fire, where we use a real fire extinguisher on a fire. Controlled, all controlled.
Always controlled. Okay.
Questions on training? Did I answer your question, Mary?
Yes. I mean, because we did have a fuel overfill on last quarter's report or something.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I understand this will make it so that won't happen.
Right. This is for the actual, like, the big tanks that we have, the 12,000 gallon tanks that we have.
Okay.
That's what the Vita route system is monitoring.
Okay. Thanks. Good catch.
Yes, ma'am. Then we'll get into construction. It's still in that second quarter. The construction season continued. We were able to finish up the wash rack, the valley gutter, and the helo pad. And throughout that process, we were doing weekly safety meetings, making sure that the influence of construction on the airport and its users was run in the safest method as possible. And that included, scheduling and issuing NOTAMs. Questions on construction? Okay. No. And then finally, we continued our efforts on the fire breaks, or the mastication really is what it is. And and it is for 3 parts. It is to break down that vegetative fuels, and that works like a fire break. It enhances our wildlife mitigation efforts, and it is also in case of off-runway aircraft accidents. Number 1, it'll be a smooth surface, but number 2 is that rescue can actually get up to that aircraft in a more expeditious manner. So last quarter, I talked about the north side of runway 1129, that being completed. This last quarter, we continued that onto the east side, northeast quadrant of the field. And that one actually sways a little bit away from the runway, based on the fact that we had some old trees over there that we limbed for, again, fire protection efforts. And so we masticated underneath that too, as a good fire break. So questions on...
The other benefit of mastication is that you're making less homes for critters, which then bring in birds, right?
Yes.
Okay.
True.
That's good.
That's fine. And then finally, we continued our COVID-19 safety measures. And most importantly, we just tried to enhance compliance of and the ability for compliance for our staff and for our users. I would like to personally say that I appreciate all our wonderful staff and their efforts, their flexibility, and their patience. And I hope you as a board are very proud of our efforts there with COVID. I think your staff has done a really nice job. That is my report, and I'm open for questions.
What a comment. I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. Mary, I did hear your desire to be on your request to be on the DOI emails, and I did add you already. If anybody else would like to be on those DOI emails, I can put your Truckee Tahoe Airport email on there, or please email me with the one that you would rather have on there. So I'm open to that.
Great. Yeah, kind of it's the daily what's happening. So thank you.
All right.
Any other
Thank you
board
very
member
much.
comments, questions? Any public comment?
No public comment.
Good job, Stacy. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right, monthly financials. Kelly Wu.
Hi. Just a quick update on our financials through July. 7 months down already. Overall revenues, we're at 1.9 million, 190,000 under budget, 12,000 under 2019. Definitely not where we normally are in the summertime, but still chugging along. Our year-to-date 100 low lead gallons sold were up 1.5% to last year. Jet A was up 14.4%, but the prices are pretty skewed compared to this time last year. August was going pretty well up until this last week, or last 2 weeks with the smoke. So we've certainly had some challenges there, but hopefully things will clear up a little bit. Overall revenues, we are $964,000 under budget, but we are still ahead of last year by $933,000, so almost exactly where we were last year. Payroll, yes.
Curious about the 3 hangar tenants on the rent deferral system. 4th reached the 3-month mark and has been reactivated. Did they pay up to the promissory note, or are they being carried, or what's the plan with that?
That I would have to defer to Hardy on. They had extra time to pay it, so I don't think they paid it yet.
I don't think it's up yet. Pay it for the promissory note and the policy.
Yeah, because they had time to pay us back.
So
but with only.
I'm just trying to understand. So we gave them 3 months rent deferral. So now they have to pay their 4th month, and then at some point by 6 months they have to pay back the 3 months. Is that what the plan is? I'm just trying to get clear in my head.
Yeah, Hardy, do you remember the?
I don't have the promissory note language, but that's essentially it.
Yeah, essentially they need to resume paying their regular rent after the deferral period, and they have the entire amount is due. I believe it's within 12 months, is it, Kelly?
That's what I thought. It's 12 months.
Yeah, so, and then the entire amount becomes due.
So they're paying their 4th month.
Yes.
And the 3 months are due within 12 months.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Kelly?
I had a question on some of the specifics of 11, of the actual month daily, the month end, all the 800s in July of 2020. And the 6024 aviation safety initiatives actual was 27,000, but the budget was 8,000. What was the difference there?
Year-to-date aviation safety initiatives is what you're looking at?
Yeah, I was just looking for the month, and it was 27,000 actual, budget was 8, and the prior year actual was 26,000. So I was just curious what
Likely
that was.
it's timing of invoices.
And this is 800 stuff. So what was it? It was.
You can look it up for you. But year to date, we're at 33,000 versus budget of 58, so we're still pretty far under budget. It's likely timing. This isn't what we put into the budget versus when the invoice came.
Okay. I
can find out what it is though.
Okay, 6230 is the control tower, and it's only listed, it's listed under 800 for only 2769, and there's no 100 or 600 there. So what's with the control tower? Because I know at 2635 or 2365 a day, I know we're spending 70,000 a month for that.
Right, and that's again another invoice timing. If you look at the year-to-date number, that has all 7 months in it. And in June, keep in mind, it went up from 68 to 70.
So there's no the 6230, some of it is 100 or some of it is 600?
No, there's only one 6230.
And it's all 800, so it's all being paid
out of 800, correct?
Out of property taxes.
Well,
no,
we classify it under that. That doesn't necessarily signify property taxes.
No, that's just where we put the budget number, and it has no. There's no relationship there as to what funds are paying for that.
I guess I would say some of that would be airside, half and half. I mean, you talked about that, Kevin, earlier, that, the tower's kind of half and half. So it seemed like half of its cost should be under 100.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be something we can talk about as we dive into the budget at another budget hearing, is to, we don't necessarily look at these 100, 600, 800 numbers as how it relates to property tax because it's all mixed in there.
Right.
But you can look at doing some of that if you'd like, but we typically put, there's lots of projects that we have that are all credited to one line item that you could distribute among many. And so that would get pretty complicated pretty quick because none of them are allocated. None of them go through an allocation to understand how that works.
But, earlier in today's conversation, in fact, you talked about the control tower being, it should be, part of it is the pilot, that it's an airside benefit and it's a community benefit, and we should have that, and I just, seems to me you would have half of it under 100 and half of it under 800.
So just for clarity, Mary, your comment is if we move some of that over to 100, it would give the public would understand, or the board would understand that some of that is related to Aviation Community Services Department and some to Operations Administration.
Correct. Right.
Okay. I'm curious. We're fine doing that. I'm curious what some of the other board members' thoughts are. If we want to do that, or do we want to?
I think we've had this conversation before, and it was, if it's easy and inexpensive, it is absolutely great. But we don't want to spend a ton of money to drill down on it.
I'm just saying, put one more line in it. We do it on everything else. There's 100, 600, and 800 on computer support, on legal, on professional fee.
Hey, I'm not sure who is unmuted and has a lot of background noise, but it's really coming through, cats and banging and stuff. Maybe you could mute.
I think it's Kelly who's making the presentation.
Sorry, I don't have any cats though, just kids. I'll tell them to be quiet. There are many line items that there are a 100, 600, 800 expense for, and there's lots of them that there aren't. It just really depends on how we build the budget. But unless we have a definitive answer to yes, it's 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever it is, there's no real way to know what it's supposed to be.
Heck.
Fire alarm.
Wow.
Well, let Kelly and I talk about that tomorrow. And my only thing is just how that relates to other parts of the budget and what other categories we might want to do that to. So we'll just have to do that.
Yeah, Kevin, I would just echo what Teresa said. I feel like we have given you feedback on this in the past. we're okay with it in general. I think that general
Yeah.
was that we were okay with it. But I think a number of us also were not okay with it if it turned into a major ordeal and we needed to create a new budget line item for adjusting the budget. And if it gets to that point, I think you need to come back and say, okay, how do we want to do this? How in depth do we want to get? This is what it's going to cost. And do you want to approve the cost? If it's just changing a few line items around to better allocate where they go, I think it's good information for everyone to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And it does seem in the case, for example, the control tower, relatively straightforward to do. So.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Any public comment?
There is no public comment.
Okay. Excellent report. Thank you. Let's move on to Kevin. Right? Runway utilization?
Actually, yes. I think I'm gonna turn it over to David Van Quest.
Hello, everybody. I'll emerge from the dark screen. Real quick, that's a bright light. Sorry. Not much to report here. Vector has spoken with me a few times now. They want to get this right. We're kind of their main customer for this product right now. They showed me a couple items of what it may end up looking like and just wanted to make sure we're satisfied with where they're going with it. So they're hoping to have the new tools of weather integration ready come mid to late October. Really at this point, I think it just be a good idea for the board to start kind of some ideas of what they'd like to do with these new features. That's about it as far as the update on runway utilization report.
We're hoping that it looks like, just based on when the tool will be done, that we're going to run this report biannually, and so we'll do that on December 2nd. You'll see the 2020 summer and how that that peak season ran with that weather data, and so we'll every month we'll have this on to give you an update and allow board member participation in kind of the things that we're talking about. But right now, it sounds like, at least when talking to David, that it's mostly internal programming that's going on and building the three functions that the board approved.
About right. Yeah, and all the information we're going to get out of it, it's like as little weather data or as much as we want. There's like sunrise, sunset, where the cloud layers are and things like that. So plenty of data for us to dissect how we want to.
Very cool.
Great.
Any other questions or comments for David?
No.
Okay, any public comment?
Nope.
Thank you, David. That was great. Let's go to 13, monthly flight procedure and ADSB update.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with ADSB. So the ADSB construction portion of the project is complete. So the system has been installed. I'm going to show you some pictures here really quick. It's pretty exciting. The system's putting out flight tracking data, and it's being tested now by L3 Harris. So I'll start with a few pictures. I'm going to share my screen, and you can see what we see. So this is the location of the ADSB site is actually in one of the lower containers within the tower. This is the backup generator. This is only a temporary generator in case the power fails. We have a backup generator with an automatic transfer switch, an ATS switch, because it can't go out of power. Obviously, that's a pretty critical element. So here's a picture inside the container looking down the length of the container. That's the ADSB radio transceiver station. All this cabling goes up to the very top of the containers, up where the control tower is, with a bunch of different GPS antennas up there. let's see. This is kind of looking back through the container with all the grounding equipment. There's a lot of HVAC and cooling equipment in there to keep the equipment cool. And here's the exterior man door. Here's the telecom block. So there's redundant telecoms, triple redundancy. So you have teleco coming in from AT&T and Verizon both, and then we have fiber optics as well to feed the system. And then this is the system placement at South Lake Tahoe Airport. So there's a hangar at the east end, the south end of the airport, and the installation is outdoor. So the whole ground station and everything is placed outdoor, and then it runs with the antennas up onto the side of the building. And here's a picture of the antenna array that goes up the side of the building. So functionally speaking, the project is complete from that perspective. Pretty exciting. I'm going to get back to my staff report here. Stop sharing my screen so you can see each other. Timeline I'm going to put up here for you and talk a little bit more about ADSB and when the different triggering elements are going to happen. So what we're working on now is essentially all the internal display technology inside the tower. So the CRT displays that the controllers look at are certified by the FAA. It's a component of the project that we're going to spend a pretty significant amount of time on trying to figure out, get authorization to put that technology into the tower. But we should have flight tracks to show the board at the September meeting, and we're going to do some flight testing probably early September, and then the FAA will be out in October to do flight testing with tracks in front of a certified radar display at Oakland Center sometime in October, we hope. So that's it for ADSB. It's a big milestone. It's been a long project in the works, and we're happy to have it completed. And I'd like to say that L3 Harris and SBA and Broken Arrow and all the contractors and consultants that came together to put this in and get it turned on, just a phenomenal group of people to work with, consummate professionals. They did a great job out here in Truckee for us.
So when will it be fully operational, Hardy?
I think we're going to see flight tracks, test tracks in September and October, and I think it's going to be in the test environment in Oakland in sometime in late October. So I think it's going to be turned on so that air traffic controllers can see airplanes at Truckee sometime in late October, early November. That timeline is not published by the FAA, and it's also never been done before. So that test environment, it's put into a glass test environment where the controllers see a traditional radar screen on one side and an ADSB screen with our service volume on the other side, and they make comparisons between the two, and then they actually fly an airplane through the service volume repeatedly to try and generate flight tracks and connect the data points. So I'll have more for you in September, but I'm hoping I can give you a map in September that actually shows flight tracks in Truckee with all the ADSB returns on it. Any questions on the ADSB installation before we go to flight procedures? Okay. Flight procedures is working. The initiative is moving along quite swiftly. I met with Alex Siebold, Flight Tech Engineering. He showed me all the prospective notional procedures. They look very much like what we showed the community and the board in the past. Essentially, the initial portion of the project talks about a departure eastbound off of runway 11 with a climbing left turn. And the other departure is essentially straight out off runway 29, gentle left turn to Cigna intersection over Donner Summit. That's the priority. Earlier in the budget workshop, the board talked a little bit about trying to make sure that we look at other potential approaches and departures within this assessment period. So you're going to see that when the assessment's complete. I hope to show that to the board in September. You're going to see a whole multitude of options for Truckee. So you're going to see departures and arrivals off of essentially every runway. Runway 29 is really tough. Runway 29 is not likely to have any new certified arrival options presented for the board for that runway. The terrain is too steep to the east of the airport, but there's some alternatives that we may be able to work through, but that's going to come out in the assessment process. So our goal is really to get that assessment to you in September, have you look at the flight tracks, pick out the alignments that the board really thinks is the best alignment for our community, and then integrate that feedback back into our public outreach process. So that's where we are with the flight procedures. I think we've made great headway and a really compressed time schedule, and I think we're going to see some great work from that assessment process. Hopefully have the report to the board in September. I'd like to show you the timeline really quick because it came up during the budget workshop on what sort of timeline we're working on. So this is a timeline, control tower ADSB surveillance flight procedure timeline. I've showed the board this, and we presented this at every meeting we've talked about these initiatives. I did some enhancement and compressed the timeline a little bit to look in the near term and not necessarily out to 2022. I'm going to show you the original timeline that we talked about at the May workshop. But right now, on the flight procedure side, essentially, again, we're looking at the assessment being complete in early September. We're looking at a potential flight procedure consultant presentation in late October. And then the track approval I have highlighted in red, that's a period of time when the board's going to have to consider where the flight track is going to be located over our area, over the Martis Valley, over the region, and really give staff and the consultants some feedback on what alternatives we think are going to work best for our community. Then we're going to integrate that back into our community outreach portion, and then essentially start outreach in the December, late November, December, January timeframe, and then try and present all of that information back to the board in February. That's the flight procedures on the ADSB side. The installation's complete. That's a thumbs up. That's today's date. And then we have this displays, the air traffic control displays that I talked about, letters of agreement and memorandums of understanding between Oakland Center, the airport, and our control tower vendor, which will be Midwest. So those agreements actually talk about who controls what aircraft and where the handoffs are made, and who covers which surveillance volume when you look at an airplane in the sky, and who separates metal during different phases of flight. Those are really complicated pieces of contractual agreements that our airport's never done before. So I just want to give a little bit of warning that it may take us some time to work through those. We've never done it before. Oakland Center's never done it before. So we're working on this. We're entering the process in good faith and doing the best we can. We're going to do it right and not fast, but we're going to try and get it done as soon as we can. And then a little bit on the control tower. Like Kevin said, we have a request for proposal that we're going to formulate to go out for tower services. And then the tower service contract in its current form renews on May 1st of 2021. So we have essentially from now until May 21st, 2021 to find or renew our contract with Midwest or find a new vendor to provide ATC services for us.
Are there a lot of vendors out there, Hardy?
There are 3 primary vendors, and there's 2 vendors that entered the marketplace when we put the bid out the first time. So there's Serco, Robinson RVA, Midwest, and then we got 2 other bidders when we did it the first time. So we may have potentially up to 5 bidders on the program, and we want to talk a little bit with the board about alternatives to the RFP process as well. But we'll bring that forward, I think, when Kevin has time to get it in on the board agenda, but sometime in October. And I'll show you the other timeline. This was the original timeline I presented to the board for procedure development, and it has a lot of disclaimers on it because it's a complicated project, obviously. But again, we're looking at this whole process taking, essentially of getting that paper into the pilot's hands sometime in the December of 2022 timeframe. So this is published on the May 24th the special workshop in May. This is in the presentation I presented, so it's been put out there, and I'm going to keep adjusting this. If we can make it shorter, we're certainly going to try to do so. So that's what I have for you on flight procedures, and happy to take any questions or clarifications as needed.
Just 2 years, assuming it all goes right, is what I'm hearing, for these procedures to get out in the published realm.
Yeah, the FAA publishes 18 to 36 months is their time frame that they publish. And we think we're going to accelerate that based on the work we've already done. And I would think that based on the initiative that we've done in the last 60 days, I think we will accelerate it. I just want to be prepared that we might not.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Hardy? No? Okay, any public comment?
No public comment.
All right, thanks, Hardy. Let's do what's next? Oh, it's Kevin.
Yeah, do you ever report? And just I want to thank Hardy for all his work on that, and David. And we'll put these on every month so that you can comment on both of those different projects. So just real quick, it is interesting that they've had this National Airports Conference programmed, and they actually decided yesterday to go 100% virtual. They really tried hard to be able to do it. But yeah, all of our travel training opportunities are, as you know, are delayed till next year. Rick, do you have anything on Mountain Housing Council you wanted to cover?
No. Same as last month.
All right, perfect. So the
No, it's slow, not perfect.
slow, yes. Yeah, the just on the JPA, there is quite a bit of interesting things going on there. We are working with a local builder on possibly getting some housing that the JPA members can, some moderate income housing for the JPA members to offer to their employees on a first right of refusal. But they may not cost anything. That could give some really awesome opportunities for people to get in on the ground floor, some workforce housing. That, and then also the landing thing that we talked about last time. But as Rick mentioned, Emily Vitus, our executive director, is doing a really good job of accelerating and trying to find places we can help our employees find housing. I know some of our employee group has experienced some evictions. I don't know if eviction is not the right term, but property owners selling their properties and asking them to leave. And so this kind of effort, this JPA, is timely to try and see what we can do to help our employees find housing. Maybe just give a quick opportunity for Director Stevens and Odette to talk a little bit about the tour of the Lake Tahoe Maritime property. I'm hoping to bring this back to the board in October. That's the third of the three property acquisitions, but we did our tour on Monday. I was there also. But anything you want to communicate on your tour?
Rick?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a really incredible piece of property. It was originally the nursery, and then it was sold to the Maritime Museum, and they are selling it to close the Maritime Museum. You can buy all their all the stuff that's in there. They're getting rid of that, and they want to sell the property, and they want to form a private foundation for their family to run. So the Tahoe City PUD is in contract. They're going through their due diligence. I very specifically asked Sean Barkley. They actually have the money to close, and what they're looking for is a participation in the development of the property, which will take over a bunch of time. And I'm in 11 acres right at the corner of 89 and Granley-Bakken Road is pretty amazing. And they also have leftover tenants from the gardening operation, and they've got to work their way through that. I think it's something we can work on if we have a fit for the airport, but there's a lot more to come, and they don't, unlike Truckee Springs, they don't need the money to close. That's my takeaway.
I think they want money to close, but they don't need it.
Gee, that's a different, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's kind of what I heard too. There are a few things to do over there that would fit within our mission, and I think maybe we can, when they present in October, we can talk more about that if the board has interest in pursuing it. Be all that I would add. Okay, anything else on that? Item 4?
Nope.
Item There's two things I just wanted to cover real quick, and I'll Harry, you've asked for this, and I'm going to make sure you get it. I did finally get it. It's right here. It just showed up. You can't see it because of my funny screen. I've got the we finally got some carbon emissions from different aircraft going between different destinations that we're trying to work into this infographic. It's actually a little complicated, but we think we can do something kind of cool with it. And we're going to work with Aviatrix to help us put that together. But I'll get you out kind of some of the preliminary things that we were able to work with First Environment that we hope we can get to an infographic. The second piece of that, really important with these infographics and this kind of messaging, is you let people know of their impact. Then the second part is, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do about it? We did find this, and I've had a hard time getting information from the Rocky Mountain Institute that runs this, but it's a turnkey thing that we can jump on. It does not fund local carbon sequestration or projects, but it's something that we could launch immediately while we try and figure out a local option. But Lauren, if you could scroll up just a little, what it does is it gives you this, estimate your carbon impact, and you put in your destinations, and you can put the Truckee Tahoe Airport in there and put your destination, and it does give 8 pounds of carbon. Now, they're probably using, 737 or, Airbus A321 numbers. They're probably not using a Challenger, but it gives at least something that we can start with. And so I've been exploring this a little bit. We could actually probably build something like this ourselves, which gives people an opportunity to input some data, get a carbon impact, and then find a way to offset it. So it's kind of an interesting tool that I found that seems reliable. So I wanted to put those two things out. One, the infographic information is coming. I'll send you out the raw data. And then the second thing is, do you like this? Do you want us to at least get this rolling immediately? And then work towards building something that's more local? Or do you not like any of these ideas? I guess that's what I put out there.
This looks really promising. I mean, it's like you said, the devil's in the details, right? What's the plane? What are the calcs? But it looks promising. And being able to answer the question, the second question you posed, okay, what do you want me to do about it? Yeah, it looks promising.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I looked at it and looked at some of the projects that they fund and thought, well, it's a way to get started right away.
Yeah.
And, local agencies can apply to have some of their projects in here too. I mean, there was stuff all over the country. So that's it, see where it goes.
Great point. Brought that up. That's I'll bring that up when I can get these guys on the phone, Rocky Mountain Institute, and because I'd love to have if we do want to do this, getting our logo on there as a partner. There are some GA airports that are in there. Teterboro's in there. Yeah. And one of the questions I had for them is there a way to account for carbon footprint of a business aircraft rather than just airliners, which is kind of what that's geared towards. Mm-hmm. So I'll ask that question and then also ask, how do we get local projects into that? So that's a good point.
I mean, it's still not even like, it was like San Carlos to Truckee is $2 for one person. $1,000 is $2. It's not a big outlay for somebody, but it's awareness. And I think it's something that we could include in because that's what we're trying to do, is bring this into people's awareness. And so this could be something when you're on our Going Green to Keep Our Region Blue ad, somehow incorporating that in that ad. I think that could be useful, and then putting it in all the literature that we send out to passengers, the Talk Quarterly, and put it in the pilot planning area, training area, lounge area, in the lobby near the cafe, on the website. I think get started and then see where, if we can then build off to our own, that's great per aircraft. I'm also really curious to get the information you said you just got and what graphic that's going to be. But this is exciting. Thank you for getting on it.
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing it up. The one thing that you said that's really important that I wanted to jump on is ramp conversations with passengers are awkward. I think that's the term that Tom Van Berkom used once, intercepting the passenger and talking to them about their impact. This is kind of an awesome thing that give Mark, myself, others here a way to talk to passengers and give them are you aware of this cool program, and at the same time get in their hand some other impact information that they may want to consider, particularly about don't schedule your flight to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning. But the traveler, or something like it is a great segue to have those conversations with passengers, because that's one of our most difficult outreach and who are the passengers. But it's easy to approach almost anyone with this kind of topic and talk about it.
Thank you for getting on it.
Yeah, other comments on that, or any other?
Looks cool.
Okay. All right, well, we'll keep pursuing it. That's about all I have for this month. You can see our upcoming board meeting schedule. I'll be working with Teresa and talking about ways to, is October, December, one of these meetings, can we meet back in person? So we're paying very close attention to, the county health guidelines, CDC, and then trying to follow very closely with what all of our fellow special districts in the counties are doing with their meetings, of when we can get off these crazy Zoom calls and try and do some work in person. So last thing is just the rolling agenda. And as I mentioned, I've got more edits. I might send you out a new version of this. But as you can see, the October and September meetings are quite full. A few of these things may fall off, but most of them I'm looking at are pretty solid and will probably move forward. The facility maintenance plan is pretty well done. I may push that down just a little bit, just put up some time for some other things. But you're going to get a copy of it probably in a week or two, and it's quite large, and you'll have plenty of time to review it before the presentation, and then you can see where those budget numbers are coming from too for September. So for the rolling agenda, that's all I had there. And then we'll also get the board of director appointment discussion will be on for September. I'll make sure that's on. That's it.
Great.
Kevin, sorry, on that, since Jim is leaving, and on the actions we need to take, if I could request that you have it, working with Josh or Brent, just very clearly delineated what the choices are for next steps. We've got 2 options, we've got 4 options, but just really, really clearly delineated. It's, especially with such a full agenda, that's a place we could get tangled up.
Sure, and I'll try and get that out I'm trying to get some of these items out to you early.
Yeah, even better.
And that's one of those I think we can do fairly.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments for Kevin? Any public comment?
Ellie, did you raise your hand?
I did, but it wasn't for Kevin. I just had
Okay.
an answer for Mary Coomer earlier question. Is now an okay time to give that answer?
Sure.
I didn't understand that.
Answer to you.
Oh, I just had an answer to your question from earlier on the aviation safety initiatives line item. There was 17,000 and 1,800 worth of that 27,000. It's an obstruction survey.
Okay.
And so it just depends on when it happens and the timing of the invoice versus when we budgeted for it.
Great.
And then the rest of it was flight procedure outreach.
Flight procedure outreach, which was COVID? Or is that?
It was an invoice to Aviatrix Communications. We're working with them on flight procedures. And ABC times 2 LLC, which I'm not familiar with that vendor, but again, also flight procedure outreach.
Thank you.
Sure.
Happy birthday, Hardy.
Yeah.
Welcome to
the club.
He's
Yeah,
almost
happy birthday.
51. I mean, that was so long ago.
I'm leaving it up for a long time because I'm an elder now. I heard.
Oh, God, it's talk to you, huh?
Joining me on that.
I move we adjourn.
Wait,
I want to make a board
announcements. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before that, there was no public comment for the GM report. Also,
Thank you.
go ahead, Jim.
Because it seems like this might be my last chance to talk to you guys, I want to depart with a couple thoughts. There's a few mentions tonight about our mission statement, and I'd like to ask you in my absence to pay attention to our mission statement, which talks about a community airport with a high quality aviation facility, us striving for low impact on our neighbors, and the benefits to the community at large. And I think that in all the time that I've been here and been involved, I've never seen us doing quite as good of a job as we are today. We heard from three really wonderful people in our community early in the meeting, Tony Lashbrook and Jim Porter and Perry Norris, about a project that I think really fits in well with the airport and things we've done in the past. And I look back at all the things that have happened in the 9 years that I've been here, and I'm really proud of those meetings where I walk out of at the end of the night and I feel like, wow, we did some real good here. And we've done a lot of that, and I think you guys are really well set up to keep doing it. And then I just want to highlight our staff. I think our staff is knocking it out of the park. Mark, with his outreach discussion tonight, I've never seen us delineate and talk about our outreach quite so succinctly and quite so definitively of what we're doing and how we're doing the things like going out on the ramp and talking to people that are asking where to go, where's transient parking. And sure, we could do more of it, but it's great that we're doing it because we haven't been doing it every year for the 9 years I've been here. And Stacy, with your safety report, we didn't really even have safety 9 years ago. We had the idea of, yeah, we're safe, but we've grown leaps and bounds and since you've been here with our safety management system and the things we're doing, and it's really awesome. And birthday boy, the ADSB program, it's been a really long road, and I'm really proud that you're getting there. And then I think the three-legged stool that John's always refers to is finally, we're starting to see it get built. We're starting to see the foundation there, and they didn't build Rome overnight. It happens brick by brick. And Kelly, they complain whether you're too loud or you're too quiet, so just don't pay attention to it and keep doing the great job that you're doing. And Kevin, leadership is not lost on me, and your leadership with your staff it's really fantastic. And in the COVID time where so many people are inefficient, and we here in the Truckee Tahoe Airport District are really busier than as a community than we've ever been, and we're more impacted than we ever have been. I see your staff crushing it in the airport, doing a really, really good job. So I'm psyched about that. Lauren, since you're on here, the devil's in the details, and the constant update of your background is not lost on me. And even this girl at the bottom of my screen, Ashley White. I'm not sure how you're sitting here listening to all this, but I've seen like half or more than half of the faces on my screen tonight are women, and in aviation that's very unique, and in board rooms that's unique, and in meetings of formal things that's somewhat unique. And I'm really happy to see it happening, and I'm really happy to see you be a pilot, and I want you to tell your girlfriends and your friends to join our community, and thanks for being here. So thank you to all you guys. I can't wait to not be here next month.
Jim, thank you for your long service.
Yeah.
We all
And your
appreciate
leadership.
it.
Wonderful.
And I'll be around. I'm not going anywhere. Nothing's changing in my life. I'll be here all the time. So if you ever need me to come to a board meeting, I'm happy to come and put my 2 cents in. And I care a lot about the airport, so I don't intend to go anywhere. I just think that it's probably my time to slip away, and I really largely feel like that because I feel like we're in a better place than we have been, and I'm happy about the direction we're headed. So have fun. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
If anything goes wrong, I'm going to blame it on you, Kevin. So your leadership carries a heavy toll.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're going to miss you, Jim. Good luck climbing those next mountains.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Second.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bon
For
voyage.
adjournment?
What we need a vote?
You neither vote, or if you lose a quorum, it's adjourned.
Do we still have a quorum?
Thanks, Brent.
Don't you have to roll call it? No.
No.
We're
If you lose the
giving
quorum,
public
you're out.
quorum.
We're done.
Bye, guys. Thank
See ya.
you.
We'll see
Good
you
meeting,
later.
Teresa.
Thank you all. Great meeting. Bye-bye.